This is Jocko Podcast number 344 with Echo Charles and me, Jocko Willink. Good evening, Echo.
Good evening.
Also joining us tonight, Dean Lister.
Good evening.
Good evening, Dean. Dean Lister from Podcast 137. If you haven't heard that, go listen to it. Dean is it safe to say Dean's one of the greatest grapplers of all time? I have to ask Echo Charles. Is it safe to say that?
It is safe to say that, yes.
Like Jiu-Jitsu world champion. Is that accurate?
Yeah, Abu Dhabi was it's like the hardest tournament to
Submission.
win. I won it 3 times, super fight, absolute, and then my division. So I guess, I don't know, best. It's always relative, you know.
Well, we could at least, at a minimum, we could say he's a good grappler.
Yes, sir.
It's safe to say he's a good grappler.
I agree with that completely.
A few good days. Yeah.
So, good evening, Dean. You know, you fought in a bunch of stuff. Fought in the Pride over in Japan. Fought in UFC, and I thought it would be cool to bring you on because we got some stuff to talk about. Speaking of the UFC, so the UFC kind of changed everything for martial arts. And really, I guess you go back to like Vale Tudo in Brazil and NHB in Brazil. But that type of unrestricted fighting advanced martial arts in a decade or two more than it had advanced
Ever, almost.
in a very long time. But, you know, I was thinking about that. I was thinking about what you just said. And I actually think that's actually not true a little bit. And here's why. I think it actually brought it back to reality. Because if you went back to ancient Greece and looked at pancration, right? Yeah. Those guys, we have images of people doing pancration. And they're doing omoplatas, they're doing Khmers, they're doing heel hooks, they're doing what we do. And pancration, if you don't know what it is, it was in the Olympics. And I'm talking the old school Olympics. I'm talking 648 BC is when pancration was introduced into the Olympics. And it was a combination of wrestling, boxing, kicking, joint locks, chokes. It was, in other words, an ancient version of MMA. But over time, things got separated. The disciplines got separated into boxing over here, wrestling over here, Muay Thai over here, Jiu-Jitsu over here, Judo over here, Taekwondo over here, Karate over here. And I was trying to think about why that happened. And I actually think I have a suspicion, we'll say, a hypothesis.
All right, cool.
My hypothesis is, you know how people generally only want to do what they're good at?
Yeah.
Oh, you're good at bench press? What are we doing for a workout today? We're doing bench press.
Yeah.
Or, you're good at squats? What do you want to do today? Oh, we're going to do squats. Yeah. Oh, you're good at grappling other people. So I'm good at boxing. I don't want Dean Lister grabbing hold of me and taking me to the ground. And so I'm going to make a different thing, something that I'm good at. And that starts to draw in all the people that are good at that thing.
Yeah.
And over time, it seems like you just have these separate things. Now, whether that's the actual reason, I don't know. But everything got separated. And martial arts became so siloed, right? Where it's just different sections. And then, unfortunately, martial arts became theoretical. And it didn't take much time for it to go from theory to lies. And I know lies is a strong word, but if you go look at what's the Instagram?
McDojo.
If you go look at McDojo, those are lies. That dude posts. What's his name?
McDojo Life.
McDojo Life.
Yeah.
So if you go to McDojo Life, you can see people are teaching lies, actual lies to other people. And, the lies are things like, oh, this one strike. Or my chi will prevent me from being taken down. Or I can absorb your strikes with my aura.
Yeah. Jocko, do you think it's a form of, I don't want to say hypnosis, but like, what is it you think? Like that kind of, is it like, oh, everyone else is doing it, so I guess I'll do it, I'll play along, or is it, do they actually?
There's absolutely some kind of psychological,
something going on,
there's a psychological phenomenon that occurs. Isn't he making a movie about this?
Yeah.
To explain
like a
it?
documentary, yeah.
To explain, and I'm sure
I'll be in that movie.
That's awesome. You in it too, Echo Charles?
No.
Okay. So McDojo Life is making a movie about it, but yeah, there's some kind of psychological manipulation that happens where, you point your finger at my sternum and I feel like pain and fall down.
Yeah.
And the reason we know it's a lie is because plenty of people have challenged, like, try that on me.
Yeah.
Mother liquor.
Jocko, what's the story about you? You were at, I don't know about the SEAL base, but you were there and some guy's like, yeah, you put your finger in the collarbone and you're like, no. And he's like, yeah, it works. And you said, try it on me. And you double-legged him or something. What was
No. Well, I had a guy saying that, like, they had a name for this, like, neck strike. And they were like, if this is done, like, if I did this for real, you'd immediately be, like, paralyzed on the right side of your body, and that would cause you to fall down. Yeah. And then that would lead to my next move, which is a heel stomp to the groin or whatever, right? And so I was like, cool, do it to me.
He's like, no.
And the guy's like, well, no, it's, and I was like, do it to me. Just do it. And it obviously didn't work. Like a karate chop to the neck.
But didn't you take one, like second one, and the third one you responded? I heard that you retaliated.
No, I don't even think I retaliated.
The word is that the word.
No, Jeff Higgs had a guy that said that he couldn't be taken down once he settled his chi.
He could root into the ground.
Yeah, he would root into the ground. Yeah. And the guy's like, you would not be able to take me down. And Higgs is, what do you mean? And Higgs, if you don't know who he is, he's been on the podcast. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's a former SEAL and a good friend of all of ours. But this guy was saying, you can't take me down once I settle my chi. I always remember that's a good quote, right? Once I settle my chi, because it sounds like it might be a legitimate thing, right? Like that's like you just didn't make that up. That's you've told that to other people. Yep. And so settled. Jeff's like, okay, well, why don't you go ahead and settle that chi? And the guy goes through his little ceremonial thing and like, gets in the horse stance.
Hell yeah.
And Higgs is like, are you ready? He's like, yeah. And Jeff just like double legs and slams him on the ground.
It's like my toes were crossed.
Yeah.
She wasn't settled.
So there is when you get to that kind of McDojo stuff, there's definitely some psychological weirdness that's going on. But those lies were spread. And, whether it was you can't strike through my aura or the dim mock, which is, hey, if I touch you here, you're going to literally die.
You die a few days later.
Which also leads to the, hey, I can't actually do this to you because I don't want to kill you and go to jail for murder, okay? I would do it to you because you're making me mad, but I don't want to go to jail for murder, so I'm not going to do this, dim mock to you.
Yeah.
And furthermore, the reason you don't see these moves in competition is because they're not allowed.
Jocko, times as a UFC fighter, I've had guys come to me and go, hey, I saw your fight. You're a good fighter. I'm a street fighter, Joe. And I'm like, okay. But they had to like qualify that for some reason to me. I'm like, well, okay, that's cool. It's just kind of funny that someone thinks that maybe I've never been in a real life altercation outside, also like I've had that's why I look special, my face. I've been bit, I've been poked and whatever, anything else you can imagine. But it's like, those things I would call them targets of opportunity or fighting dirty. Yeah. But you can't replicate the eye gouge over and over, or everyone's gonna have one eye, So I don't know. I just think it's funny that people think that despite all your training, if it's a street fight, like you have no chance. I don't know, man. Whatever.
Well, if you could do an experiment where you took someone and just trained them in jiu-jitsu and they never got in a street fight, and they went against someone that was a quote street fighter in the street, it's like it doesn't matter. So the training will transfer. Now look, could you pick up some bad habits where you do something in the street that it takes you an extra 2 seconds to win because you should have done this specific thing? Because you could do that, but that's like the tiniest percentage. If there's someone that's like, that's why I don't train, because I'm ready for the street. But going back to the storyline a little bit, these lies, which still exist today, in the 70s and 80s, these lies were just kind of like out of control.
Yeah.
And they definitely got picked up in the military. I was looking through some old I looked through an old Army hand-to-hand manual from 1982. So this is like in the heyday of Chi. And it said this in this manual: no judo. You have probably already asked yourself, what about throwing and takedowns like in judo? We have purposely excluded throws and takedowns because throws and takedowns are normally only an intermediate step to taking your opponent out. After your opponent is thrown to the ground, you will probably still have to strike him to finish him. So let's just block his attack and finish him with counter strikes instead of blocking, throwing, then striking. It's like, that actually makes you think, well, it's a good point. No. That's a good point. I don't want to have to take someone down. I'll just take them out. This thing goes on to say that throwing puts you in a vulnerable position. To throw your opponent, you must first grab him. This puts you close to your opponent and vulnerable to his attack.
Certain throws, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Well, theoretically, again, that's the problem with this stuff, is theoretically, especially if I say, listen, Dean, if I, double knuckle punch your sternum, it's going to cause you to have a cardiac arrest. So why am I going to bother throwing you when I can just give you a literal heart attack? And if you said, well, why don't you show me that? I'd be like, because I don't want to kill you, bro. You just have to, but trust me. So actually what's interesting is in that book, that field manual I was looking at, I'm looking at the rest of it, and it has all these their foot patterns, and it looks like these dance moves to avoid and strengthen your power, and it's just a bunch of nonsense, to be honest with you. But like I just said, if this stuff is getting taught by some authoritarian figure and you can't really test it in any way, and this is someone that's a 38-year-old who's talking to an 18-year-old recruit that kind of wants to believe, by the way.
Yeah.
Because most people are like, oh, you're giving me a special power. I'm going to take it. I'm not going to question you. And that's probably what leads to some of the weird McDojo life type scenarios. So this, to me, this is like the low point of martial arts in history, in my opinion. Yeah. This is the 1970s, the 1980s. And look, I get it. Some guys were doing the best they could with what was available, and good on them. I know some of those guys. Remember Dr. Mick? Dr. Mick was one of those guys. Yeah. And he had a whole crew of guys. In the 70s, they did everything they could to the extent that they could do it. And there was also some guys that were awesome back then. Judo Gene LaBelle. No one can question the effectiveness and the efficiency and the awesomeness of Judo Gene LaBelle. 50s, 60s, 70s. But as a whole, if you look at commercially, that time period was pretty rough for martial arts. And then the UFC came. And the UFC brought the truth. And with that, everything changed for the better.
I'm taking notes, by the way. This is good stuff.
Everything changed for the better. What's your notes? Do you have any so far?
Well, I wrote a few things down. I just think we'll get into this, but it's an old saying, and I'll butcher it probably, but there we go. Something like, hard work achieved without payment or without sacrifice is something you shouldn't trust. So the quick way to get this quick knockout without learning how to box, or the quick way to get the flying submission or the Steven Seagal neck break without learning to grapple, it seems good, but it doesn't work. Trying to get in shape without working out. I don't know if you just get like implants in your biceps, like you, sir. Yeah, bicep implants. Yeah, those arms don't work exactly. Yeah, I'm sorry. I won't say it on the internet. It's private. But these kind of things, these shortcuts. Become a millionaire tomorrow without even having a business plan. I'm saying that's an interesting idea. So it sounds good. Mm-hmm. And I think if someone trained a lot in boxing, kickboxing, and wrestling, and you could do that stuff. Yeah. If you train in all these disciplines, I think it's interesting. That is something that I think it's imperative to get into. I asked you this, Jocko. It relates to what we're talking about right now. I had a Zoom call with 12 Marine officers. They called me. It was a colonel. He called me. They were always, captains and lieutenants, and they were talking about, because they had fought. I guess they saw me compete in Brazil, talking about my training patterns and whatever. And they were saying how it could relate to the military. And I said, well, and this is something I know. I'm stepping out a little out of my realm, but I mentioned something. Simulation training. Of course, you talk about that, and that's not combat, but that's closer to combat than bang, bang, bang. Mm-hmm. And I know the argument, they don't go through walls and they're not as realistic, but you get a sting, you got hit. And they were like, no, that's like closer to a gun battle than laser tag or something like that. What's the old system that would beat?
Yeah, there's an old system called Miles Gear, which is a laser tag system, and they have more advanced laser systems, which are actually really good now. And yes, those are great training tools. And sure, are there some little things about using those systems that are not accurate? Yes, but just as you said, it's closer.
So if you're getting ready for, I don't know, even a life and death situation, I would rather trust the person who has trained 10 years in a struggle where they've dealt with adversity, they've been in panic situations and been calm, versus someone who, I don't know, let's say is open to more dirty things but has never practiced it in real life. Then again, if someone has actually been through a life or death situation and used it, that's good, I guess. But I think it's important to find that training medium. So gloves, matter of fact, I guess I should wear more gloves when I train. But if you don't wear gloves, your hands get stronger, but you can also hurt your hands. So gloves have a place, but then again, you can't rely upon big gloves in boxing. If you have small, you have no gloves, and you can't cover up the same. So I think it's important to find that happy balance, that medium between hard training and realism.
Yeah, and that's what the UFC did, and really jiu-jitsu is a huge part of this. Is you can train full speed, right? You can go hard, and look, you can spar in boxing, and you can in wrestling. You're going live against other people. But when you take that and put it together into a martial art, jiu-jitsu was like bringing that forward. And boxing did it, wrestling did it, jiu-jitsu does it, Muay Thai does it. But who didn't do it was like Dim Mak and the old kind of weird traditional martial arts that didn't actually do anything except for theory. So as the UFC happened, we started to see this in the military. And people in the military started learning and testing and started to move the military combatives to a much better place. And one of the leaders in this is a guy named Matt Larson. I don't actually know him, but everybody kind of knows him. He's a former Marine, former Army Ranger, and I think he's pretty much known as the father of modern Army combatives. He's the one that started to train and formalize and kind of push this well-rounded approach, realistic approach to hand-to-hand combat. And eventually his work, and look, I'm giving one person all the credit right now. I'm sure he would talk about all the people that helped him get there, but this is the person that I know of that was involved. And like I said, I'm sure there's many more people, but he certainly was a spearhead on this. And his work, and whoever he was working with at the time, eventually became an Army field manual. An Army field manual, 3-TAC-25.150 Combatives. And I thought today maybe we could take a look at this manual, go through some of the highlights, discuss how it can be applied. And not only can it be applied to how we fight, of course, but also how we train and how we live. So there you go. Let's take a look at this manual. Combatives. Picture of a dude with a freaking K-bar on the cover. Gotta love that. Here's the overview. The overview to kick this thing off. It says, combatives training stands apart from the vast majority of martial arts training in that producing the individual's actual fighting ability is of primary concern. The mental and physical benefits of training gain their worth from usefulness in producing more capable soldiers. Now, I'm not 100% sure I agree with that opening statement. Only because it says, combatives training, the main thing about combatives training is that you're trying to improve the fighting ability of the person. Mm-hmm. Doesn't all jiu-jitsu and boxing and Muay Thai try to make you a better fighter? Mm-hmm. I must be misreading that or something, but that's what we're trying to do, is make someone a better fighter. I guess I'll go with it. Purpose, combatives. The art of hand-to-hand combat bridges the gap between physical training and tactics. The products of a good physical training plan, strength, endurance, and flexibility must be directed toward the mission, and soldiers must be prepared to use different levels of force in an environment where the intensity of a conflict changes quickly. Many military operations, such as peacekeeping missions or non-combatant evacuation, may restrict the use of lethal force. Combatives training prepares the soldier to use the appropriate amount of force for any situation. Okay. So that's always good. And sometimes people will ask me, hey, have you ever used hand-to-hand? And they actually think my answer is going to be no. And they think that most people would never use hand-to-hand, but it actually is very common to use combatives techniques in combat. Why? Because you're dealing with civilians, you're dealing with unarmed people, and you can't just run around shooting everybody. In a semi-permissive environment, or even in a wartime environment, you see someone that's not armed, or you enter a building, there's a male, a female, a kid that doesn't have a weapon, you have to contend with them. So combatives are very important to have as a skill set to handle. Actually, when the enemy has a gun, it makes everything easier. You kill him, you shoot him, done deal. No factor. What'd you write down, Dean?
A couple of things about the origin of martial arts and how some things have shaped regionally, right? Just a little before. But also, I was mentioning one detail. I saw someone from one military service of one country. I won't get too specific, but I saw the person teaching. He has knuckles right here on his hand like he's a boxer with big gloves. Mm-hmm. If you do that with no gloves, your own hand will cut your face.
Yep.
So things like that, they're teaching the recruits. I'm talking, there's like 200 people in the class. It was one of our services. I won't say which one. And teaching people to hold it like this. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying, well, even in boxing, I wouldn't do that. But with big gloves, it makes more sense. You can see over. Yep. That right there is someone who actually has never been punched in the face without gloves on. Teaching that to 200 people at a time. I'm like, I didn't correct them. Yeah. But he's having them like this. I'm like, man, at least want to be here, or maybe it's just interesting that person teaching people how to punch with no gloves on. Probably has never been punched in the face.
Yep. And he may be a skilled boxer.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, probably.
And he's probably may have been punched in the head, while he had his cover up. And you can realize you can absorb. You've got their big glove versus going into your big glove, and it absorbs. You take those big gloves off, you punch right through that person's hand.
So that is a little bit. We're looking at a sport, boxing, which is great. I love boxing, but if you do not alter that part, by the way, not every boxer does this. I'm just saying some boxers in the corner, you cover them like this. If you don't alter that rule, that would actually cause you to get a lot of damage in a fight, because this also, you don't cover much of your face with this, these little hands, the same, but without gloves. So that's an example. I was just trying to say how we're looking for the happy medium, because we are dealing with the military, not boxing and not wrestling. It's actually a military application.
Yep. It goes on to say here, combatives training includes arduous physical training that is mentally demanding and carries over to other military pursuits. This training produces soldiers who understand controlled aggression and remain focused while under duress. That's awesome.
That's true.
Right? Mm-hmm. So when you get good at fighting, it's going to help you stay calm in other situations. That's an awesome aspect of training. You process the skills requisite to the mission at levels in all the levels of spectrum of force. So you're going to learn how to control different scenarios. Have attributes that make up the warrior ethos: personal courage, self-confidence, self-discipline, and esprit de corps. That's huge. It's so good for people to know how to fight. It's just so good for people to know how to fight. Yeah. You actually, when you know how to fight, you become less arrogant.
Yeah. Yeah.
You might if you're 20 years old, you might have a spike in your arrogance, right? Echo Charles, you smiling at that one.
Yeah, there are exceptions. We'll just say that.
Yeah, where you get a little spike in your arrogance, but over time you'll realize, okay, the reason I'm good is because I trained more, and guess what? There's someone that's trained more than me, and that's the way it is. So, generally speaking, it'll help your self-confidence while at the same time preventing you from becoming arrogant.
Yeah, you get beat up so much, you have to be calm,
I mean, it's humbling, man.
Yeah.
It's humbling. You remember the first time you tapped me out 100 times in the gym when I first showed up? I was a young SEAL rolling in there thinking I knew how to fight, didn't know jack.
Jocko would, when he would tap, he would just tap. Like no expression on the face, just let's train again. So
it's humbling, especially what were you, 17 or 18 when we started training?
19
years old. You were 170 pounds.
Yeah.
And I was like 220. I was a grown man. You were a kid. And I'm like, this poor guy, I'm going to smash his little head. Throughout modern history, attempts to build successful combative systems have failed or have been met with limited success. This has happened for several reasons. Quite naturally, commanders desire a system that doesn't require any training time to learn and maintain. So that's a real problem out of the gate. People think, well, I saw a thing where you can just learn 4 deadly moves and you'll be good to go. Why don't we just use that, bro?
That's what I'm talking about. Exactly.
4 deadly moves to end any street fight. The commander's like, hey, I think we should just learn. I saw those 4 deadly moves. Why don't we just focus on those? That way you don't have to spend a bunch of time.
There's a guy, he actually has, it's tagged in like YouTube. So it's like ex-Army Ranger, plus 10 years of bouncing experience, has won over 500 bar fights, never been hit in the face once. By his system, I'm just like, I'm not going to check it out. Just win every fight under 3-4 seconds, whatever. Now, there's ways to surprise people. There's ways to look over there and hit someone. There's ways to have your friend. I mean, there's all kinds of tricks to trick. You can trick someone out in public, but I don't know. It's just funny how this get strong, quick, with no sacrifice game, or get rich quick. That's what I was saying earlier. I don't know. It's kind of like not the future.
Yep. It's going to take some time. Continuing on, further training has often been conducted by experts in civilian martial arts. These experts use training methodologies that are designed for more civilian hobbyists than realities of war. That's exactly what you were just talking about with the boxing gloves, right? Oh, I'm a great boxer. I'll teach you how to box. Cool. But I'm not wearing gloves. Now I'm breaking my hand. Now I'm getting punched in the face when I thought I was covered up. It's like that. There's the issues. Often, combatives training has been approached by allowing a soldier versed in a civilian martial art to use a limited amount of training time, usually during another course, to teach a useful technique. Blinded by their civilian training, the trainer demonstrates what the trainer thinks are simple, effective, and easy to learn techniques selected based on situations soldiers may find themselves or in a tactical niche of the specialist training. The trainer teaches the soldiers these techniques, but due to the limited amount of training time, the soldiers quickly forget them. To overcome these tendencies, a combatives training system must be based on certain principles and then maintained. So this was another thing. I ran into that in the SEAL teams. Like for a while, the SEAL teams was using this system where one of the best benefits of the system, claimed by the people that were pushing the system, was, hey, this system that we're being taught only takes 5 days to learn.
Yeah.
So, and meanwhile, some people are talking about becoming, using more mixed martial arts based systems when those things take years to become an expert. Why would we do that? It's sort of like 7-minute abs, right? You're like, hey, dude, why do all this cardio, weightlifting, and diet and all this stuff? I can just do 7-minute abs and I'll be good to go with the abs.
6-minute abs.
6-minute abs.
I'll sell you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you outsold me. So don't fall for that idea that, the reason you should use my system is because it's faster.
Yeah.
It's not real. Because you're not going to become a good fighter in 5 days. Could you learn a couple fundamental moves in 5 days? Yes, you absolutely could. You absolutely can, and they could save your life.
Yeah.
Your life could be saved by knowing some fundamental moves that you learn in a 5-day period. But are you going to be well versed? No. Are you going to forget those moves? Yes. Are you going to know how to react when there's a variable involved? No. So there is no easy, quick solution to be good at fighting. It doesn't exist. Could you learn, 3 dynamic moves that if you're a bouncer in a bar and you're going against some drunk guy that doesn't expect it and you do these moves, they'll probably work a lot. But what happens when that dude drops in and does a double leg on you, or squares up and is like a skilled fighter? It's going to be a problem. So here's the principles that they recommend: systematic training, foundation, continuous training, competition drills, live training, integrated training, combat feedback. Cool. What'd you write, Dean?
No, I was going to say like a kind of funny story. Like we're talking about weight loss. So, let's say when I go through my weight cutting phase, I'll lose like 15 pounds in, 10 days, and then I'll cut water weight, which is it's really unhealthy, but it's really, really bad for you to do that. But, cut 33 pounds in 12 days, whatever, you were there with me on that. But so people go, how do you lose that much weight in 2 weeks? I'm like, well, it's not sustainable. I'll be honest, it's not the secret. You could do that, but it's a miserable life. It's hard to do, and you can't do it forever. And remember Sarge when he tried to cut 50 pounds in a week? and he had the look of death in his eye. So Sarge, he lost like 25 pounds, right?
Yep.
Because Brian Sarge is a good friend of ours, ex-SEAL, but he actually, I think, was trying to lose 40 pounds or something like that.
Yeah, he went and look, Sarge is about as hard as they come. As far as like just being like, I'm gonna finish this thing, whatever it is. He's up there in the top echelon of I'm not gonna give up on this thing.
And it was almost Walking Dead. Walking Dead.
I mean, I remember I showed up at the gym and I saw him, and he was like
the sauna.
He was done.
Yeah.
He was like, yeah, I was cutting, and he looked at me, and he looked at like dead serious look. He's like, I was gonna die soon. That was his assessment. He was like, yeah. He goes, I got down. He goes, I got 38 pounds and whatever. And he goes, and then I got to a point where I was gonna die soon. So, and he's a corpsman. He's a medic. He's a independent duty corpsman, which is like the highest level of, and a special operations corpsman.
These little surgeries.
Yeah. So he's just like, yeah, I was gonna die soon. That was his assessment.
So I was trying to tie a story about one of our bros, but it's just funny. It's funny in a sadistic way, but even Sarge would laugh at it too. He has a good sense of humor, our type of humor. But so there is a way to lose weight that fast, but it's not sustainable. It's not healthy. Plus, you have to know what you're doing, and then you have to know when to do it correctly, and then you can also get in trouble. So weight loss. How about quick way to lose weight? Yes, it's possible, but it sucks. It's miserable. It's not sustainable. But you can actually get on a sensible diet, get in a consistent workout routine, and you know what? You could lose, let's say, 2 pounds a week. You can do that consistently. You can. You can easily, and actually have energy and be fine. Yep. You'll be hungry, but you'll be fine. But it takes discipline, right? Yep. Discipline. So I'm looking at this, learn it, and I see what they're saying. It sounds marketable, but as I was mentioning earlier, the quick fix way to get around things in training is usually not the best way.
No. You're gonna have to put in the time, people.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what they say here. This next section is called systematic training. Learning to fight is a process, not an event. To be effective, combatives training must be part of a system. Until soldiers learn techniques that form the system's foundation, they are unprepared for follow-on training. Shortcuts or teaching soldiers what they need to know is counterproductive. Much as advanced tactical training is counterproductive if a soldier has not first been taught how to operate his weapon. Army combatives training must be based in a system that both lays a foundation of abilities that soldiers take with them wherever they are assigned and is flexible enough to fit the wide range of specialized missions soldiers are asked to do. So it's the same thing that we're talking about. Continuous training. Combatives training must not end upon graduation from a training course.
Right on.
And this is, by the way, everything we're saying applies to police officers as well.
Yeah. Fortunately, a lot of cops, they don't have any more training after they get out of the academy.
It's horrible. Or they get 3 hours a year or 4 hours a year.
Yeah.
So training has to be continuous. It can't end when you graduate. For soldiers to develop their abilities, the majority of training must happen outside of the institutional training environment. So think about that. The majority of training has to be outside what you learn in the schoolhouse. Units must develop their own combatives programs to spur troops to involvement, encourage commanders to invest resources. So there you go. Competition. Competition is the principal motivational tool used to spur combatives training. Competition should be not only used to encourage excellence by giving soldiers a chance to be unit champions, but also to make fighting ability an integral part of soldiering. So if you're not running some competitions, you're not going to get people to train. And look, can you get someone that's like, hey, I'm just dedicated, I know I might need it on the job? Sure. But how many of those 20-year-olds that we're talking about is going to be like, dude, are you going to do the brigade competition? See who's got it? See where you're at? Mm-hmm. And by the way, what about you're doing the brigade competition? So you might want to like train so you're at least ready for you so you don't look like a jackass. Yep. Talks about drills. You got to do drills. Live training. Live training involves training against a fully resistant training partner, which approaches the reality of combat. This is what you were talking about earlier, Dean. There are many methods of live training. Each has its own strengths and weaknesses. Therefore, leadership combines several approaches to ensure proper training. Integrated training. Combative engagements do not happen in a vacuum. They happen as part of a mission. So give soldiers the tools they need to successfully complete their missions. Combatives must be an integral part of the training. So that means you can't just make it an isolated, like you know what a red man suit is? Red man suit is like the guy you can punch because they're wearing like a big padded outfit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, you need to integrate that into a random part of a regular mission. a regular training mission. You can't say, oh, today we're doing combatives only. No, you need to walk into a room and there's got to be some person in a red man suit just ready to throw down. And you got to deal with it. And you got to see how it affects everyone else in the room and how many people it takes and how it slows down the assault force and all that stuff. That's integrated training. Combat. What'd you write down, Dean?
Just different things. I was just I had random stories. I was going to say, remember this? Even people listen to this. But the pretty lie is more appealing than the ugly truth. So the ugly truth is it's not really ugly if you get into it. You get into the sport, it's not so ugly, or maybe that is the beauty of it in a way. But the pretty lie is always still appealing. I have a 40 course for you. You're guaranteed to win every fight. That's still appealing to most people. Still is, even though we're saying this. And I just hope that people listening to this, it's not. Well, it is. It can be torturous, but it's something that lights a fire under your butt every day. As far as you want to train more, I can get sick of jiu-jitsu for one day, and the next day I'm fine. I'm back into it for some reason. You get sick of it, I'm like, man. And the next day you're like, okay, I'm back to it.
Oh, you can definitely have a rough day on the mat.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. So. It's just that we talk about work, repetition, drills, competition, all this stuff. It seems like a lot to do. It is a lot to do, but I mean, this is the ugly truth. You know what I'm saying? So. That's just what I was writing down, just that the pretty lie is still appealing to people that are listening to this right now. The pretty lie is still out there. It's still something that people are going to be tempted by.
Yep.
Still.
And the pretty lie, you want it to be true because it's true. Easier. You want it to be true. That's how get-rich-quick schemes work, right?
Yeah.
People want to believe that a mere $1,299 investment now, when you learn these skills.
It's true.
Jocko, I wanted to believe that you could lose 18 pounds of water by being in a Epsom salt tub in a half hour. I wanted to believe that.
It was not true.
No, quarter pound.
Have you ever missed weight?
No, I was made weight.
Yeah,
I was made weight.
Man, you suffered a few times.
Yeah, I have big bones. I don't know. It's not fun.
Big bones and pizza, bro. Dude, a couple times it was like, all right, let's check your weight. Oh, you're 28 pounds over and you got to fight in 6 days.
Can't eat pizza for
How's that pizza tasting? I hope it was good.
Now you get it paid.
Combat feedback. When soldiers are engaged in hand-to-hand combat, they acquire new information about combatives. These lessons must be captured and analyzed so the combatives program evolves to fit the needs of soldiers. Through combat feedback, the following lessons have been learned, and it goes through every fight is a grappling fight. Of course, this does not mean that there is no striking. Every fight also involves striking, but always as an integral part of grappling. Every fight is over weapons. Control of this element will most likely determine the outcome of the fight. There's no shortcut to developing fighting skill. The combat feedback thing, this is something like, even when I was trying to move naval special warfare more towards a mixed martial arts view, and some people would be like, you think, you just think it should be jiu-jitsu? And I'd be like, no, actually, I don't just think it should be jiu-jitsu at all. And in fact, and this was the most important thing I tried to say, was it shouldn't be closed. It shouldn't be it shouldn't even be a, quote, system. It should be an open learning, continuous learning, evolving thing that we're always getting better at. And that way there's things that work and they work now. And maybe if in the future we have a different type of body armor that is more dynamic, or it takes up more space, or it's heavier or lighter or whatever, like things are going to change. Or the way you sling your weapon now, or a different radio you got to carry that causes something, or a helmet. Like there's all kinds of things you got to make adjustments to.
You grapple with plates on, like body armor with plates.
Oh yeah.
Because the plates get really in the way, let's say.
Yeah. And there's certain things that might not be optimum with plates.
Yeah.
And so, okay, well, what adjustments are you going to make? And maybe a new set of body armor comes out. Like you could put something called side sappy plates in, which now you have plates on your side. And how does that inhibit your movement?
You're going to find this ridiculous, Jocko. I'm playing with the front plate and the back plate, and it's a belt on with whatever. I don't say just stuff on the belt. And I set up and guard, and and I was a little heavier back then, and the front plate pinched my with the belt,
and you tapped out.
Come on, I can't sit in my guard the same way with it. So anyways, yeah, body armor is just a different thing.
So you got to watch out for that belly fat. Tap
well,
out.
you got to lose the weight. No, it's no problem.
We got to stay lean. So that's
ridiculous.
Good. The idea that whatever you're training in should evolve. And look, it's beautiful to see right now Jiu-Jitsu evolving like crazy. And it's kind of evolving exponentially. I think Jiu-Jitsu is evolving exponentially now because every one move leads, let's just say theoretically every one move leads to two moves. Would you say that's something you could say, could claim?
It should, yeah.
Maybe even one move. It could be that one move leads to 4 moves. And some one moves lead to 7 moves. But let's just say, in general, conservatively, every one move leads to 2 moves.
Sure.
So there's been so many new moves created in the last 10 years, and they've all created and spawned more moves and more moves and more moves. So it's a highly evolving sport.
Yeah, absolutely. And some things have been forgotten or reinvented again, for sure. Someone's done a lot of things before. Some things have been forgotten. Some things are out of style. But some things are definitely being invented right now.
Mm-hmm. All right. This is a really thorough manual, and this is what the Army does, man. The Army doesn't play around. They leave no room for interpretation on stuff. They got things on safety. They got the things on risk assessments on how you're going to keep everybody safe while you're doing it. One thing they say is combatives training has inherent risks. These risks may not be readily apparent and are sometimes counterintuitive to the untrained person. Therefore, a combatives instructor certified at the appropriate level should be involved in the process to mitigate these risks. And it's also important as a trainer to be able to point out the risks of not training. Like if you don't train, because listen, if you train, you can sprain your ankle.
Yeah.
If you train, you hurt your shoulder. But if you don't train, what's the risk there? The risk is you can
worse.
Yeah, it's going to end up being worse. So they go through, how to set up a training area, what general safety precautions to make. And then they got this thing. This is interesting. According to a report published by the Armed Forces Health Surveillance Center, 730 individuals who served in an active or reserve component in the Army, Navy, Air Force, or Marine Corps were hospitalized or medically evacuated for injuries incurred while performing wrestling, judo, and unarmed combat training between January 2002 and December 2009. This averages to roughly 100 personnel per year during an 8-year period. Now, quite frankly, that's not that bad, I don't think. I think that's actually pretty darn good to go, considering how many people are actually training. It says it should be noted that 194 personnel, 40% of those hospitalized and 26.6% of all injuries, were injured while off duty or have unknown duty status. Unsupervised execution of combatives techniques is strongly discouraged. This also means some of that percentage is I got a bar fight and I went to my gunny sarge and said, "Hey, gunny, I was training combatives and I broke my hand on my training partner's face." Well, how's your buddy? Oh, he's okay. But I need to get a cast. So there's some of that going on. Areas of the body most commonly injured. Of the injuries documented in the study, a large percentage, 45.6%, occurred in the lower extremities. In fact, fractures primarily of the ankle, tibia, or fibula accounted for nearly 1/2 of the injuries. That seemed high to me. And you know what it shows you? They're doing a lot of takedowns.
Yeah.
They're doing a lot of takedowns. But isn't it weird also? Fractures. They're talking about fractures. And so fractures percentage was 50%. Sprains and strains was only 13%. And what I thought to myself is that's because you don't have to go to the hospital for a sprain or a strain, so you're not reporting it. I mean, how many times have you hurt your ankle or your knee training?
A few times kickboxing, a few times.
And not gone to the hospital.
Many times.
Yeah. I mean, it's like ridiculous, right? How many times did I go home like, I'm kind of limping a little bit. My shoulder's tweaked. My elbow got straightened out, Dean Lister, whatever. So I think a lot of the I think sprains and strains is actually, you're going to get them. It's like almost 100%.
Yeah.
But people just kind of like, just put ice on it and call it good.
Well, you think maybe that these lower extremities injuries is from like kicking?
Well, I don't know. My goodness.
I think it's takedowns.
Takedowns.
Straight up fractures. I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, also,
Sure,
you know how
that's a good
maybe
point.
they'll turn the wrong way. You know, a good wrestler will face with hips. You know, I'm saying like when someone's learning, you're going through those rough areas where more likely to get hurt. You know.
Yeah. Actually, if you think about how many broken bones have you seen on the mats during training?
Not many.
Yeah, no. It's usually.
I think
like
I've seen
ankle.
two. I think I've seen two. One like ankle and one
Shoulder.
radial.
Yeah.
A guy got caught in my buddy got caught in
Bicep slicer.
Oh yeah.
And I heard it crack.
Yeah.
Spiral fracture. And he was in the damn. Still went on deployment.
Damn.
But yeah, that's why it's weird. But how many times have you seen somebody get a sprained ankle, a sprained knee? It's like you can't count them all. So this is a weird thing. This is a weird thing. And then it goes on to dislocations and skull or bone fractures and other intercranial injuries, other injuries, concussions. Concussions, they've only got it 3%.
Jocko, how many people get hurt on the obstacle course? You know what I'm saying?
On the obstacle course, probably not a ton, but how many people get hurt going through land warfare training out in the desert? Any kind of training. Yeah, people are going to get hurt.
Like what in land warfare training? Like what? Ankle?
Twisted ankle,
running,
hurt knee. It's usually an ankle, knee, or a back, right? Picking up my buddy. Kind of, especially when some people were running land warfare, and there was a lot of buddy carrying to be done. Sorry, fellas. Just trying to be ready for war. But yeah, people are going to get injured. Like, here's another one, like fast roping or parachuting. Like people break their ankle, people land wrong, people get hurt. So yeah, you're doing high risk training, people are going to get hurt. Traumatic brain injury. The Armed Forces Health Surveillance Center study concluded that a relatively small percentage, 15.5% of combatives-related injuries occur in the head, back, neck, and nervous system. Dude, I don't think 15% is a small number. I don't like that number. However, these injuries can have disastrous consequences, which can include traumatic brain injuries.
That's why you got to spar. You can't spar every day, you know? It was boxing, every day. You know?
Oh, yeah, and for sure. That's something that we've learned, and you and I did not learn until it was too late, because we had already probably sparred hundreds of rounds back in the day, live, with MMA gloves, by the way, which is not smart.
You can see better, you know?
I mean, that's kind of disturbing.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about all the rounds you did back in the day while training for camp, is a lot of you getting punched in the head.
Do you spar with MMA gloves just striking, or is it a full?
Both. Usually takedowns. But you know, you put Vaseline on, or you wear headgear and small gloves, or big gloves and no headgear. Yeah, depends. But
that's we kind of evolved.
Yeah.
And now it's evolved, like guys spar a lot less. A lot less.
Wasn't it back when you were going through SEAL training, they put the boats on your head and jump on the boats and stuff like that? But now they don't do that.
They don't do that anymore.
Yeah, but see, you learn from the past, because everyone has bad necks. Higgs, Hawes, everyone. Sarge.
Yeah,
So
that wasn't healthy.
Yeah,
that was not healthy. You got a boat on your head and the freaking 220-pound instructor jumps into the boat.
They put sand in it.
And it's not like that moment of impact, the weight is distributed evenly amongst the 6 or 7 heads in there. No, he lands wherever he lands. And it takes at least, that was not good.
And it feels like there's no real benefit in that kind of quote-unquote training.
There is no benefit. It's only a negative. It's kind of like getting punched in the head.
Yeah. That's what
Now listen, you have to get punched a little bit so that you are used to it and you're not scared of it, but you don't get better at getting punched in the head.
That's why we don't line people on walls and just start going ham on their faces. Those videos of guys line up on the wall and start just punching.
That's
the smartest
just
way.
Freaking
different tactics.
That's not just different tactics. That's like freaking jerks. Traumatic brain injury occurs when a sudden trauma or head injury disrupts the function of the brain, initiating the onset or worsening of the following symptoms: loss of or decreased level of consciousness, loss of memory for events immediately after, alteration in mental state, confusion, disorientation, neurological deficits, weakness, loss of balance, change in vision. So you get a lot of these things. if you're sparring all the time, and you shouldn't. So don't. And it goes on to some more of this danger. Should a soldier exhibit any of the symptoms of traumatic brain injury, a soldier should seek immediate emergency evaluation. This is how, remember when I got a really bad concussion from you?
You've had like, I don't know, 3 or 4.
Yeah, but there was the worst one where I actually had to go to the hospital.
Oh, yeah, I do recall that, yeah.
And I remember the doctor said, hey, no contact for, I think she said 6 months.
What happened? Which one was that? You hit your head on my knee or something like that?
No.
I shot and you, like your chin?
It was a head. It was your head hitting my head.
And your chin, my head hit your chin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And it didn't knock me out, knocked me down. And then I was looking up at the roof and I saw that I was like, why is Dean rotating me right now? Because
I feel like it. That's why.
I was like, why is Dean? Because he was across side and I'm looking up at the rafters in City Boxing. Remember the City Boxing had those big rafters? Yeah. And I'm looking at them and they're turning and I'm like, I'm trying to put my feet to stop you from turning me, but it wasn't turning.
I was turning you, by the way.
Yeah, no, you weren't. And then I woke up in the middle of the night, was throwing up and dizzy and couldn't walk to the bathroom. And so I went to the hospital because a boxer had just died.
That's right, yeah.
A boxer had just died. Mm-hmm. And I was like, bro, I'm messed up. And one of my team guy friends came and drove me to the hospital because I couldn't, I was done. But here's done, and now here's dumb. She's like, no contact for 6 months. And I was like, cool. 4 weeks later, I was like, I think I'm good to go. Yeah. We were training again, doing that. So don't be stupid.
Did you get amnesia or anything like that?
No. No, I didn't.
I got a concussion from football. I think I told you this, where I got amnesia straight up. Woke up I was conscious, but I woke up. You come to the amnesia or whatever, just confused. Same deal, no contact. But they were like, well, it's your first concussion. The next week, I played a game. The first hit, I took another amnesia scenario.
Yeah,
I was like, I don't know where I am or whatever.
That's why they have concussion protocol now and all this stuff.
Yeah.
They didn't used to have that back in the day when you were over there at
Kauai High.
Yeah.
I had probably about 10 serious ones, but one of them, after Japan, when I fought Arona, I went to Spain right afterwards, and I was like a 12-year-old kid. I had the mental capacity of about a 12-year-old kid. I was just like, hey, Dean, and I was very, I don't know, for about 2 weeks. Yeah. 2 weeks.
Did you felt out of it, or was it
I'm standing, I'm going to fall down, catch myself. Sometimes twice a day, sometimes twice a week, and then it went down. Even 6 months later, I got 1 or 2 of those. Whoa, I got to sit down. Right. But not for a long time.
You're just playing with Legos and stuff?
Coloring?
Damn it, Jocko, come on. That's a good time. Well timed.
But, right, if they're like, hey, how long, 6 months or whatever? Because, you feel better. Because even the next week, I felt better. I was like, bro, I'm not dizzy. I don't feel no pain or whatever. But, your head is so weak now. Yeah. So, you could get, a small light. I got a light hit. It was a light hit. Yeah. And I was just confused. Yep. I don't even know where I am.
Did they pull you out of the game then?
Oh, yeah.
Because you were just done.
Everyone on the whole team, knew. I'm like, bro, it's kind of scary, to be honest with you. You don't know what's going on at all. And, they knew because I had it the week before. They pulled me out.
Yeah. Well, Dean, you've taken some shots in your MMA career. Yeah. And you've never been knocked out. In an MMA fight.
Knocked down. I've been knocked down.
You've been knocked down, but you've never been knocked out. Yeah. But I've watched some of your fights that I was actually at, and I still can't believe that you didn't get KO'd to next month. You're just like, oh, cool, whatever. I'm going to keep fighting you.
There's a reason I don't look like Justin Bieber. I look a little bit different for some reason.
Yes, you do.
All right. Let's be careful of traumatic brain injury. Chokes. Next section on chokes. Chokes are the most effective way to end a fight without a weapon. They incapacitate an enemy. With supervision, chokes can be applied in training exactly as a soldier would on the battlefield.
Yeah. Great.
For training purposes, hold chokes only until your opponent taps. Holding a choke for lengthy periods may cause injury or death. Okay. So, this is one of the things we're dealing with.
They have to say that. They have to say that. I know that's.
Wait, have to say what?
It could be injury or death. I mean, if you hold someone asleep for 5 minutes, but if someone goes to sleep, you let them go. They'll wake up. Now, if someone is, there's certain substances that can actually interact with certain organs that could be dangerous. That's true. If someone has a medical condition, you never know. But I swear, being choked out is safer than being knocked out.
Oh, it's not. It's infinitely safer.
Yeah.
It's infinitely safer.
Now, if you
being
have
choked out is
painless.
I would go so far as to say being choked out has no negative impact on your health.
Yeah. No.
Now, look, would you want to get choked out all day, every day? No. But if you get choked out, 30 seconds later, you are totally viable to do anything that you need to do, with no impairment whatsoever. You get knocked out, just like you said, Echo Charles. If someone gets knocked out,
it hits the ground.
You are messed up.
Yeah.
And you have probably some kind of permanent damage to your brain. Choked out, no factor.
That's fine.
Would you compare being choked out to like your leg falling asleep? I'm sure anatomically and physiologically there's a lot different, but
yeah, probably something.
You know, like
similar.
your leg falls asleep, you're like, and then it comes back and whatever, right?
Yeah, then you're fine.
That's what it feels like, to be honest.
Yeah, it's just it's horrible because law enforcement. Actually, at this point, there's so many law enforcement departments where the choke is illegal.
Yeah, it's the same as shooting someone else.
Yep, it's lethal force, and you will be charged. And when properly trained, now look, if someone's improperly trained, there's a higher percentage that they might actually hurt somebody.
True. Yeah.
But anyone that's properly trained, I mean, please, if you come to arrest me and I'm being a jerk because I'm on drugs or drunk or whatever,
choke me out.
Please choke me.
Don't shoot me.
Don't shoot me and don't beat me in the head with a baton, right? Yeah. Because that's going to mess me up permanently. Whereas you choke me out, you put me to sleep, put me in cuffs, I'll wake up, sober up, and I'll be like, yeah, I'm sorry, man. Whereas if you hit me in the head with a baton 6 times, which is what it's going to take to knock me out, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to be messed up, I'm going to have cuts all over my head. Stitches, brain damage of some kind. I'm going to sue everybody. It's just a disaster.
Yeah.
Where's he put me to sleep? Last little 90-night rear naked choke? Yeah. It's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing that's been demonized the way it has. And look, there's been some cases where clearly it was a freaking major problem because a chokehold got put on, held for too long, put on by someone that was panicked or otherwise freaking out.
Yeah.
And it was the wrong move to make, and the training wasn't there to let a person realize, oh, this person's unconscious now, I need to let him go.
Yeah. True.
And no one was detached enough to be like, hey, you that person's subdued now, you can let him go. But that's jokes. What'd you write down, Dean?
No, I was saying like, about the illusions of, well, I mean, it's UFC, so if you have me in a choke, I'll bite your arm or I'll poke your eyes. And truth is, if you get a high level black belt and they have a choke in it, try to actually start with my arm in your mouth if you want. Your teeth won't shatter, but you will stop biting me. Or you reach back for my eyes. You have 3 seconds to go to sleep. I could hide my eyes too, and the eyes are not like Jello. I mean, they're very sensitive, but I mean, it's just funny. People think, if that's UFC, we're in control. I just reach back, poke his eyes. That's annoying. It pissed me off, actually. You saw that video with Boss Rutten? Yeah, with the chokehold, reach back for my eyes, and it's reach for the groin.
Yeah.
So these are targets of opportunity. You have to include that as a possibility.
Right.
But I'm saying, like, just the thought of, here's a quick, easy way out of the choke, just reach back for the eyes. No, it's not that easy, because if they know what they're doing, they're squeezing you, you have 3 seconds. Yeah. You're sleeping. Yeah. You're sleeping.
And you're not getting their eyes out in 3 seconds.
You might scratch their eyelid.
Yep. I've had people try to gouge my eyes out before, and it's ineffective compared to a choke. They're going to sleep.
Yeah, it'll kind of piss me off. I might choke you a little harder.
You might choke harder.
Yeah. Bite my arm right through your teeth. It's just stuff like that. It sounds brutal. It is brutal, but don't bite my arm. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So that kind of stuff. There is a happy medium of including that as a possibility, but not realizing that is a quick fix. It's just something to include in training.
Joint locks. Attacks on most large joints, for example, elbow, shoulder, and knee, are painful long before causing injuries, which allows soldiers to conduct full force training without significant risk of injury. The exceptions are wrist attacks and twisting knee attacks. Therefore, these attacks should be taught with great care and should not be allowed during sparring. That's interesting. Pete the Greek disagrees 100%.
Yes, I think so.
The way we do Jocko, Echo, myself, what they're talking about is something known as a told or a heel hook. It twists your your heel or your foot, but the consequence is your knee twist. Usually depends on if you have a strong knee and a weak ankle. Your ankle might pop first. Now, these kind of things done responsibly can be done in training as long as you catch and release. Also, your partner has to know and not turn the wrong way and hurt themselves. So I think they should be included in training. But I see a white belt, you don't teach them a heel hook and go hard because, with a boot on, a military boot, you can just grab the boot and twist it. You don't need to get a heel hook. They can just grab your boot. So with the boots on, leg lock city, bro.
Yeah. It is. With heel hooks do not hurt until they pop, until you're injured.
Right at the edge, huh?
Yeah, right at the edge. They might, but I actually hurt someone with a heel hook. I was a blue belt, and I was training with a friend of mine who's a SEAL, who's all amped up, and I put a heel hook on, and I put it on to a point where I was like, oh, whatever, he's not tapping, and I think I just let it go or whatever, but it hurt him. So, and he didn't really feel the pain from it, and I went to something else. So it is a thing, and you do need to pay attention to that heel hooks really don't hurt that much until you're injured. Wrist locks.
Yeah, there's also
that's
that.
A weird.
Yeah,
I don't know why. Is that
because
included?
there's many bones in the hand. Is all these bones together, and there's certain little pop. Could be this one bone and this one little, like ask Dr. Luke, he knows about the hand, the human hand, obviously, but it could be this little knuckle. It could be the finger. You get me? It could be that finger. It could be so a little pressure could pop a finger. Yeah, so that's what they mean. They are effective. There's some really effective wrist locks. Generally speaking, on the ground, there's not a lot of very effective standing wrist locks against a trained opponent, at least.
Because the opponent has a lot of mobility.
Yes, you need to isolate one of the major limbs, the neck or one of the arms, so you control next to the trunk of the body. Is what I'm saying. Yeah.
You know how like the heel hook, right? You don't really feel it until like kind of too late scenario, right? What about knee bars? In your experience,
knee bars,
same deal.
Kimura is worse than a straight knee lock.
As far as what the pain,
the twisting motion. If your arm pops in a Kimura, it could be a problem. If your knee pops from a straight, you'd be sore. Now, if you don't tap at all and it does break, then it's of course serious injury. But the straight knee lock, you feel the pain right away.
But your question is about the pain level.
Yeah, exactly right.
The pain level in a straight knee lock is there, and you'll know to tap.
You know to tap. Yeah,
I've had my knee pop from a knee bar. Didn't feel it. Even when it popped, I didn't really feel it that much. I knew there was something wrong.
You're so athletic. Seriously, running your whole life, maybe that's the reason. Running, you lose a lot of the nerves in your knee.
Yeah, it's very possible, yes. Because it did swell up. I didn't like...
I was going to say, was it actually injured, though?
It was like...
Because you have those weird knees, too, that sometimes make a noise for no reason.
They pop out, right. Yeah, and that's a good point. It probably was that. They was swollen for, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks maybe, which actually technically, as far as compared to a real knee injury, is not that much time. I know. So was I injured? Moderately injured. But it did swell up, and I think it was just a meniscus situation. But I didn't feel it, though. It wasn't painful.
That's strange.
So... yeah,
could
it could be like
too.
a unique thing.
Like with the arm lock, that next day their arm swell up, they didn't tap. Yeah. But the knee is a little more serious, but it's not as bad as a Kimura. Kimura, if you get an injury from a Kimura, it's a little worse than a straight knee lock generally. Yeah. Twisting heel hook is different.
Yeah, well, your shoulders are more complex joint.
Twisting, yeah.
What have you got knee surgeries pretty early.
Yeah.
Didn't you, Dean Lister?
97 and 2001.
How old were you?
I must have been 20, 21.
And what was the first 25. Injury?
It was from high school football. I got hit from the side. My knee was on. Someone was on their, like, they already got knocked down. They were on their hands and knees, and my knee got propped up against the ribs. I didn't see him. I'm pursuing down line. I was a linebacker, and someone hit me from the right side, and I twisted over just perfect. I didn't see the guy. I saw the video. My knee planted on his side, and I got hit from the right. It just popped right over.
So was it
full ACL?
ACL.
ACL, the LCL, and the meniscus, medial or lateral meniscus.
So you got the triple threat surgery?
Bucket handle tear. That's what they called it. But and then the doctor's like, yeah, you need surgery, but you have a strong knee capsule. I'm like, what does that mean? Well, right now you're okay, kind of, but then eventually just came out. James Nielsen, he had a triangle. I was in a full squat. It just came out one time on the mat in 97, and then I got surgery.
And then you needed surgery. I always kind of forgot that you got surgery in 97, and that most of your career was post knee surgery.
God, shout out to Ron Bergman I had an employment with him, and my insurance lapsed just like a week after that. So I had full.
Sweet.
So I got, thanks to Ron Berger, my friend. Yeah, he took me the job. So that was good.
You got lucky on that one.
Lucky, that's an expensive thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you got another one in 2001.
Yeah, but that was just a meniscus. That's just a shaving. Yeah, meniscus. 2001, 2003 is when it was a good year for me in Brazil. 2001, I was, for 3 weeks hemmed up. It was not a big deal.
And then you got shoulder surgery.
Shoulder surgery. I had 5 shoulder surgeries in a year and a half. Yeah.
That's not fun.
Because I had an infection in Brazil. In that Brazil, I have an infection. A really bad, serious infection. Like they were even saying in Portuguese, like, "Hey, we're not saying you might get your arm cut off, but it could happen." I'm like, bro, when a doctor says it, they're kind of like, but they're telling you for a reason. So
yeah.
I think
what surgery was that? Like the original problem? What was it?
It was my medial, my infraspinatus, my subscapularis, and my labium, and my rotator cuff. So those all ripped up from all the competitions I've had. Also in Russia, it broke in Russia, snapped. And it's a bad arm. That's all. But it's okay, right? Surgeries happen. Yeah.
We have a lot of overlapping injuries. Even actually, I didn't. I tore my knee, kind of real similar in a similar way.
Yeah.
The year before, 96. Yeah. Football, same deal. And then
your bicep too.
Yeah, the bicep. In fact, one of our surgeries was on the same day. We ran into each other. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did know that.
I go in for the surgery, and the doctor's like, "Oh yeah, Dean's here." I was like, "What?" And then he's like coming to after his surgery. He's like,
"Wait, who was the doctor? Where he like knew you guys?"
Well, yeah, because you said when I first tore my bicep was after you tore yours. It was at a different time. So when I tore mine, I was like, "Hey, who's your guy? Like, who did you go to?" Because he was back in the game. So I was like, "Let me go to that guy." So it was Norman Kane.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I went to him, and then he patched me up or whatever.
Like, Dean's here.
No. That was the first one. The second, when I ran into him was the second one.
What if I'm being wheeled out? I'm like, Echo, don't do it. Don't trust him. I would have trusted him if I was you.
You've only torn one bicep, haven't you, Dean?
Oh, well, yeah, it was complete tear, though. Just rolled up my shoulder. You were there when they rolled up my
I was
shoulder.
there
Like
too.
two shoulders, no bicep.
You were there too? Undisputed?
Yeah.
Remember Robert Garcia, we were about to go, like, I don't know, bro. Yeah, it was a bad injury. Yeah.
But the second one, it was like 9 years later when you got your other surgery on your shoulder bicep. It was like you had a big surgery.
Yeah.
So I went, and Norman Kane did yours, right? That one?
Yeah.
But I didn't get it from Norman Kane didn't do mine. It was the other guy. It was like his partner guy or whatever. So, but I saw that's who told me when I walked in. It was Norman Kane, and he was like, "Oh, what's up, man? Dean's here." And then he's like, "No, we finished already." So then Dean's like, when you come,
that's a bad sign for jiu-jitsu when you go to get surgery and your other friends are in there getting surgery as well.
The other guy's there too. Yeah,
not a good
sign. 100% recover. Is your how is your?
It's getting strong. I just rehab and progress, so I'll be okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Check. It actually has a protocol. Like I said, the Army doesn't miss anything. Protocol for injured soldiers. It's got everything in here. It also says that striking is not the most efficient way to incapacitate an enemy and often results in injury to the striker. Mm-hmm. So this is like a pro-grappling statement. Not only is it not the most efficient way, but I'm probably going to get hurt too.
Jocko, the old school boxers, apparently with no gloves, would punch the body more.
Yeah,
that's why the hands were down here, because punching the forehead back in those days, your hand's broken now. You're like, probably to retire now, or you're not going to go into the job at the factory now.
Right.
These guys actually worked at the time. So the rumor, I'm pretty much known with the 1800s. It was like the hands were low because you were punching more of the body. The face, but you're taking a chance to the face. Yeah. So there we go. I mean, they knew back then they didn't have the same medical care we do now, and there's a reason they were hands low.
Yeah, they actually keep them tucked to their sides a little bit, prevent those body shots, and yet further out in front of them, so they maybe can get up and defend the face a little bit if they need to. That's interesting. It does say, however, striking is an important part of overall fight strategy. Strikes can be very effective in manipulating the opponent into unfavorable positions. Striking can be practiced with various types of protective padding, such as gloves. Defense can be practiced using reduced force blows. So there you go. Talks about this is such a detailed document, and the Army just does this, man. The Army is squared away when it comes to doctrine. They make them just incredibly detailed things, and this team obviously put a huge amount into this. Talking about training. The military profession is inherently dangerous. Commanders must train their units to tough standards under the most realistic conditions possible. this chapter discusses the Combatives training program, from an institutional training to operational unit training, training areas, training techniques, teaching techniques, and safety precautions that must be considered before conducting combatives training. And they get after it in this thing. I mean, this is like, if you didn't know anything about anything, you could pick up this manual and start to piece it together, you know? Deliberate work risk assessment worksheet. It is vital to identify a necessary risk by comparing potential benefit to potential loss. The draw process allows units to identify and control hazards, conserve combat power and resources, and complete the mission. This process is cyclic and continuous and must be integrated into all phases of operations and training. Like, these guys are they're not even playing around with this. And then they go, what do you got, Dean?
No, I was just saying, like, I like how this is structured. I really like it a lot because you need to have a guideline,
right,
especially in the military. I think it's really good. I think you're doing a good job so far. Folks are very complete. One thing that I think is very important as far as training on your own, if you're in the military or if you're under some certain guidance like this, is there has to be some wiggle room, some leeway, such as I'll show a move that I don't even do that well, but I know my students do well. Like remember Eric had a better darts than me. Mm-hmm. Maybe I taught it to him though. So there's certain things I'll teach that would not be under my guideline, but I teach because some people do those moves naturally well. Some people I wouldn't teach. I'll teach them the triangle, but let's say the legs are not very long. It's not going to be their main move, but they got to learn it anyways. Someone else that's going to be their move. So I think it's really important we have the guideline, but there's also has to be some wiggle room. That's why it's important to train in your own free time, to find your own style. I think it's really important for jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, you don't want to learn by the book only.
It's good to have guidelines.
Yeah, it's got to have the guidelines, but you got to get out there. And then it goes through the whole thing of like how the basic combatives course of instruction, there's a BCC instruction and what that does and what that includes. And then tactical combatives course and what that's all about and what that includes. And then you get the combatives master trainer course of instruction, the CMTC. This addresses all ranges of the fight by training striking skills and introduces soldiers to the integrating combatives training into the rest of their warrior tasks and drills, i.e. incorporating combatives into training, close quarters combat training, and mission unit training. And then it goes over duties of the combatives master trainer course certified instructors. And it says everything that they have to do. And there's a whole list of things that they have to do to be like a master trainer in this stuff. They went to great lengths to get this program. And you know, a lot of this, I bet, was you got to play the game in the military. Yeah. You know, you got to play the game. You got to give the leadership what it is that they need to say, I bet you they pulled out like some immediate action drill rifle training guidebook and said, all right, we're going to put all the stuff that's in here about safety, we're going to put it in here.
Yeah.
And they did an awesome job of setting this up where it's kind of hard for the leadership to say, well, you guys really haven't thought this through. It's like, oh no, we thought this through to the freaking nth degree.
Yeah.
Here's some of the stuff the combatives instructor has to do. Receive at least 20 hours of instruction, gain the ability to teach basic combatives and develop scenario-based training, and understand standard competition rules. Pass a hands-on, performance-oriented test on basic combatives techniques, including the following maneuvers: escape the mount, trap and roll, pass the guard, achieve mount from side control, arm push and roll to the rear mount, escape the mount, shrimp to the guard, scissor sweep, rear naked choke, cross collar choke from the mount or guard, bent arm bar, straight arm bar from the guard, straight arm bar from the mount, sweep from the attempted straight arm bar, close the gap and achieve the clinch, takedown from the front to the mount, rear takedown, front guillotine choke. Guillotine, sorry.
Guillotine, boy.
Pass a written exam on the combatives program and standard combatives rules. Conduct at least one scenario-based training exercise and receive an additional 20 hours of training. So they've got everything. Like, that's what you need to do, right? So this is as thorough as you could hope for.
Yeah, they forgot the spinning, jumping, double reverse, inverted, upside down umplata. But other than that,
and you know, we had Tim Kennedy on, and he was talking about he's the three-time Army combatives champion. And when he won it twice, and he was the only person that had won it twice, and then he won it 3 times. So, but that's just an awesome competition,
that's awesome,
and it's grueling what they do. It's like multiple fights, and the rules kind of escalate as you go through. I think like the first day when they're just trying to weed people out, it's just like grappling only.
Yeah.
And then the next day is like grappling with strikes on the ground or something like this. And then like the finals is just basically MMA with freaking fatigues on, right? That's freaking legit, man. And everybody shows up to that thing. It's the army, right? Freaking legit. Outstanding way to figure out where people are at. And then it gets into like unit training. And a successful unit combatives program continue to focus on the core techniques taught to soldiers during their initial military training. Mastery of these moves, not exposure to a large number of techniques, will result in more proficient fighters. For unit combatives training to be successful, it must become an integral part of the unit's culture. Successful unit combatives programs have 4 characteristics: training for every soldier, set standards and hold people accountable for them, motivate soldiers and leaders to achieve excellence, integrate combatives into mission training. So I think like that's the kind of thing, that statement right there, this is what law enforcement needs to look at.
Yeah.
Combatives training for everyone. They need to do it all the time. It needs to be part of mission training. And I've been going around saying for the last couple of years that I think law enforcement should be training 20% of their time. 20% of the time that you're at work as law enforcement, you should be getting trained.
But I think it's interesting because Jocko, we talked about this personally about law enforcement. You've done vehicle interdiction, you've actually done it in wartime scenarios at night, and the thing is, I'd rather get arrested by Jocko than actually no. Other people would prefer to get arrested by Jocko than someone else who doesn't know jiu-jitsu. So the thing is, yeah, it's not always nice with me. I'm also not that nice back, by the way. So to be fair, but I think it's going to be, is that extreme? I think the idea of, human confrontation, just being used to that more and more. I mean, how do you get debate skills without getting into? You're not getting argument, not full on argument, but you actually have to get into the debate itself. You can just talk by yourself or get in the debate with someone else to get skills like that. So I think it's a good point. Plus, you get in shape.
Yeah. So let me ask you this question: picture you have 10 police officers.
Yeah.
And there's a scenario that's unfolding, and one of the groups of 10 is like normal police officers today, and they have the normal 4 hours per year of defensive tactics and combatives. But you have all 10 of them versus another department that is training 20% of their time is spent training. So, and they've been for a year have been spent 20% of their time training.
Yeah.
And there's a call, some emergency situation. There's somebody going crazy with a knife. There's a domestic violence scenario where a guy's on PCP and he's freaking out. Or you come home to your house and there's like something bad is happening at your house. Who do you want to show up? Do you want the 10 people, the 10 police officers that have had 4 hours of training each, so 40 hours of training, or you want only 8? Because 2 of these guys are actually on their training right now. They're not working, so you only get 8. But that 8 has trained hundreds of hours over the last year to prepare for all these different scenarios. There's no doubt who anyone would pick.
Someone else might say that, well, that time could be allotted better to study the law. It could be allotted more for, I don't know, marksmanship.
They're stupid if they say that.
It could be allotted more for counseling sessions. I mean, the thing is, we're talking about human confrontation and I think how to de-escalate, because in jiu-jitsu, it's not always about me being stronger than you. It's about me finding a way around.
Yeah, and it's also that training is not necessarily, it's not all combatives. It's not all shooting. You will be taking de-escalation. Hey, how do you deal with someone that's, you can tell they're clearly angry. It's a domestic violence situation. The guy's freaking out. What are you going to do? Hey, you need to settle down. And it's like, no, that's not going to work out well.
Yeah.
You need to, keep some distance, talk to him. So you're going to get trained in all these different aspects, not just training on shooting and fighting. It's training on how to de-escalate, how to get control, how to set things up. What psychological maneuvers can you make to get someone to calm down? Like all those things are what you need to get trained in. So the fact that I hear the excuse of like, well, you need the police out. No. Untrained police have less value, way less value than trained police. Not even close. And, that was another thing, right? As I was having some of those discussions and arguments while I was in the SEAL teams about, hey, this system that we're using right now, the guys are trained up in 5 days. The system that you're talking about would take years, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years to get proficient at. And I remember I was like, occasionally get a good comeback or whatever. I was like, well, you're in the teams for 20. So why not get good at it, you know? Why would you expect someone to get good in 5 days at something that takes a lifetime to get good at? And by the way, you're in the SEAL teams for 20 years, at least. Well, I guess you could be in for less time. But most guys are in it for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 20, 25 years. Let's get good at this thing. So that's the unit training, and they talk about standards, and they talk about making it part of your physical training.
Yeah.
Right? If you're going to train, that's another thing. Like police officers, that 20% of time that should be spent training, that includes, like, how are you getting in shape? Are you in shape?
You want to be in shape if you're a cop.
Oh, my God. You know, you see these some of these videos of police officers, and you're thinking, wait a second, how is this person going to stop anybody that's remotely athletic? Even if I just run away, how are you going to catch anybody?
Yeah.
And, you know, this whole thing, you know, we did a podcast on the Uvalde situation, and it's just...
Yeah, it's terrible.
What else needs to happen in America to realize that we need more training? And by the way, that Uvalde situation, the fact that people didn't respond and acted in a cowardly manner is also part of training. It's also part of training because you learn, like, oh, if I don't do something aggressive, then I'm going to get caught. I'm gonna look bad. I'm gonna be bad. The culture changes. If you have a culture, and I used to see this with SEAL platoons. If you had a culture that, like, you had some of these SEAL platoons coming through and they were like ready to take on the world, and you throw some scenario at them, they were going on the attack, and that's a culture that happens.
Yeah.
You have another SEAL platoon where it's like, well, we're cautious. We have a 0 defect policy. We don't want to get in trouble. We don't want to do anything wrong. We don't want to look bad. And that's what happens. You see them stack up on a building. Oh, I don't want to go. Do you want to go? I don't want to go. So you have to inculcate them with the right culture where they know, hey, if you make a mistake, it's okay because you're getting after it. I mean, we just did a freaking podcast about the damn Nazis. And part of the Nazis' culture that they tried to instill was, we'd rather have you make a bad decision and do something than not make a decision at all.
Yeah. The worst decision is no decision sometimes.
Yeah. So the training that I'm talking about, it involves everything, and it corrects all these problems.
It's get them in shape, get them more attuned to stress, human confrontation, de-escalation, how to defend yourself,
being default aggressive,
how to not damage or how to lessen damage to a suspect.
Yep.
I think it's awesome overall. We had that department that, I mean, I'm not saying this should be the policy, but one was at Michigan, some county, the sheriff, everyone had to be a blue belt in his department.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that should be. Well, then again, it sounds like we're on the right track. Yeah, we're on the right track there. I'm just saying, like I think it's. But then again, we're partial because we have this great reality called Jiu-Jitsu that we're exposed to, and the average person.
But also, we're seeing the news, and we're seeing cops have to do things and get beat up by one guy and taking 2 or 3 people to take somebody and getting weapons taken away, and it's like awful to see. How is this even happening? So it's not, look, we might be biased towards jiu-jitsu, fine. Take my bias out of it. I'll still tell you that you better learn how to fight, and you better train, and you better spend time training.
Jocko, you've seen at least 10 different videos, so 10 different, I'm talking Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt versus
random
like for instance, like he's mounted on the guy like Matt Serra in Vegas. This drunk guy was harassing him, and even in Hall, Ryan Hall also in some restaurant.
Ryan Hall?
No, Ryan Hall.
Oh, Ryan Hall.
Well, drunk people, and they're just mounted like, hey man, calm down. The guy, I'll sue you, and they're holding the guy. Hey, call with the cop. And the security comes, and no one gets punched. And I know this is cops, and the guy doesn't have a gun. I understand, but I'm saying these are black belts, which is of course different level. But they're holding the guy down, not hurting him.
Yeah.
And they don't have 3 homies with batons. So by the way, you want to have groups, you want to have team tactics with law enforcement. Of course, I'm not saying, but it is cool if you have the ability and the opportunity to. Well, look at that. And there's also one from Brazil. This guy tried to, I'm not saying, I think she just left, but this guy tried to, I don't know, take her purse or something, and she's like mounted on the guy, just beating him up. This is in Brazil. It's a legit black belt. If it's female, just the guy's screaming, he's going, socorro, socorro, which means help in Portuguese. Socorro, socorro. It means help in Portuguese, and no one's helping him. It's just filming. It's like a chick just mounted, just beating the guy. Like it's kind of brutal, but that is just, let's say it's a grandiose comparison, but if you have that opportunity and that ability, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
There we go.
And it's heinous to watch this stuff on an almost daily basis. Or I mean, at least once a week, you're seeing a video of a cop that's not trained.
Yeah.
And at a bad outcome. And look, there's all kinds of cops that are doing the right thing all the time. There's cops that train jiu-jitsu. There's cops that are doing things right to the best of their ability. By the way, they're investing their own money and their own time so that they can be better police officers. Good on them, but should you have to make that sacrifice? And by the way, what if, a guy's got a wife and kids and he's got a mortgage to pay, and all of a sudden, it's $148 a month to train jiu-jitsu, or it's $165 a month to train jiu-jitsu. All of a sudden, it's like, I got to make a choice between, getting my kid a new bicycle and training jiu-jitsu. You know what? I'm going to sacrifice this month, and the next thing you know, they look up in 3 years and they're not training anymore. Yeah. So why not help the police so that they can help the community?
Who's doing a good job is our bro Ryan with BP.
Yeah.
He has what was React now. It's called the BORTAC.
Yeah.
They're like the federal SWAT team with the border. They're actually the guys who killed the Uvalde shooter.
Yeah, 100%.
But these guys actually, Ryan has his guys. I mean, they do medical training. I don't know about every day, but they have doing barricades training. Or they were doing ground. I even did a few classes out there, and they want to learn like the new knee lock. They're doing like the combatives, but for the border patrol, and it's pretty cool because they're not just sitting around. They're going on duty but they're actually training every day. I think it's pretty cool.
And that's
cool,
the way. That's the way law enforcement should be.
Yeah,
you should train 20% of your time. If that means you train, an hour a day or an hour and a half or 2 hours every day, or that means you take 1 day a week where you train all day, I don't know, but figure it out. Because if you're not training, you're not going to be prepared. And when you're not prepared, then you overreact. When you overreact, that causes problems. And then you get, innocent people getting killed. Or people that don't deserve to get killed. Why? Because there's a panic happening.
It's extreme, Jocko, but I had an acquaintance that we're talking. He was talking about he was in Afghanistan. He was in the Marines, and he was like, no, Army. My bad. He was Army. Both sides will kill me for saying that. And he was talking about how they would practice putting IVs in with night vision on. Yeah. And like that's well why? Well, in case we have night vision on and we can't see, and because it's different depth perception or whatever. But he's like, that's just something like, okay, that makes sense, but that sounds kind of extreme. Well, why is it extreme? Mm-hmm. One day you might have to do that. Yeah, and how much better are you prepared for if you don't have to have night vision on? Well, cool. Yeah, it's easier. If you happen to roll up on a suspect and they attack you and they weigh 110 pounds and they don't know anything, cool, you can handle them, great. But what happens when they're 220 pounds and they're a purple belt? Yeah. Or they wrestled in high school? Isn't most training for in case something goes wrong? Should be. So you have a jam in your pistol. Oh, yeah. Well, you didn't clean your pistol correctly? Well, it's still going to happen. It's still going to have jams. There's level 1, 2, I don't know, 3, what level? That's what Sarge taught me. Different ways to clear a jam. But it's in case something goes wrong. If nothing goes wrong, you actually don't need to drill. Really think, why do I need to drill if nothing ever goes wrong? Something's going to go wrong eventually. So I'm just saying, jiu-jitsu, martial arts, what they're doing in the Army, I think is really good because we're getting ready for in case something bad happens. Yeah, and all of this will straighten out your mindset. Yeah. It will straighten out your mindset. Because if you're not used to this stuff, when somebody grabs you and you're not used to it, like somebody grabs me or you, like somebody grabs one of us, there's no mental hurdle of any kind to be prepared for combat in that moment. Yeah. Most people, when they get grabbed, they haven't ever been grabbed before. And they have a giant mental hurdle to clear before they can even respond in any way. Never mind appropriately. And by the way, they're not going to respond appropriately. They're going to respond badly. So it's like this has to change. And like you said, I mean, I think a lot of the stuff that's in this Army Combatives manual is suitable for law enforcement. And there's some people that freak out, by the way, when you say that. They're like, oh, you want the cops to be military, paramilitary? No, yes, actually. I want them to be well-trained. I want them to be ready for whatever's going to happen. Yeah. So, there you go. Then they go through, like, how to get people sustained where they can then keep up their training and stay good. Here's everyday mission essential task list requiring use of combative skills. A compliant subject at a traffic control point suddenly becomes non-compliant.
These are just like things to run, just scenarios to run. The battalion indicates that an intelligent subject must be captured during the search and seizure mission. The lead man in the search team encounters hostile opposition and has a weapons malfunction. Okay. Could that happen? Yes, absolutely. 3, when turning a corner in a bunker complex, an enemy grabs a soldier's weapon and pins him against the wall. Okay, could that happen? Yes, it could. Yeah. In close quarters, an enemy attacks a soldier under zero illumination. Could that happen? Yes, it could. These are everyday situations that could happen. Well, yeah, they could happen in combat, but they could happen in law enforcement as well. And if you're not ready for them in any way, you're not going to know what to do, and you're going to fall apart. And then you're going to end up doing something stupid.
Jocko, you know, I've heard, actually we talked about this when I was in Puerto Rico working with a couple of military guys, that a lot of guys are used to these optics, like these, EOTech, whatever these things on their carbines or their pistols.
Yep.
If that doesn't work one day or it goes out, they're not practiced with open sights. So the thing is, like, I mean, if you rely upon that right there, specific that, and you don't have that available to you, like, you know, you're not keeping yourself up to date upon if something goes wrong. The drilling, I think, is really good. So if you're exactly caught and you can't see, if I have a hold of someone, I don't need my eyes that much, to be honest. You really don't need your eyes. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. If I have your leg, I know where it's at.
People compete when they're blind.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's some strong guys, some strong blind guys.
Ryan Job, I was training with Ryan Job after he was blind. And it was like, once you make contact with him, it's like, it's on.
Yeah.
Talks about, a bunch of stuff with live training, ground sparring, situational sparring, right? That's something that we've been doing for a long time.
It's important. Yeah.
Soldier A begins in Soldier B's guard. They spar until Soldier A passes the guard, is swept or submitted,
reset,
and they go again. Like,
reset points, yeah.
That's it. It's very straightforward things, but you could do that with every aspect, like any of these scenarios. You can run these scenarios. Okay, it's dark. You grab my weapon. Let's do it once. Let's do it twice. Let's do it 3 times. Let's do it 5 times. What works? What doesn't work? These
are like pieces of the puzzle that separately is each piece is different, but in the end you put it all together. Because it's hard to do the puzzle unless you see what the picture is, what you're gonna make. And if you don't understand the pieces, you make the frame, you make the corners first, and of course. And so I think it's a good way to have these situational, or I call it reset drills, or time and grade drills. It's really good to have.
Yeah, and they go through everything from like how you spar on the ground, how you spar with takedowns, how you do. I guess we call it shoot boxing, where you're like boxing gloves, but you're doing takedowns. Yeah. What do they call that? They call it kickboxing with takedowns. Okay. Cool. And then you still have to sometimes, as you said earlier, if we only do shoot boxing and we never do wrestling by itself, or we never advance to where we're doing a full sparring, then we're gonna miss something.
Yeah.
So you have to mix it up to some extent, or it can be a problem. This is where it starts talking about basic ground fighting techniques. Basic ground fighting techniques build a so all that, like we now we're getting in. This is just talking about like how to run a program, how to set up a program, what the safety protocols are, and then it gets into the actual fighting. Basic ground fighting techniques build a fundamental understanding of dominant body positions and should be one of the primary focuses before moving on to more advanced techniques. Basic fight strategy. When 2 untrained fighters meet, they instinctively fight using the universal fight plan. They pummel each other with their fists until one of them receives enough damage that they cannot fight back effectively. Most forms of martial arts training are designed to make fighters better at executing this strategy. However, this approach has 2 drawbacks. One or both fighters are unarmed. Progress is solely dependent on the development of skill. This is actually 3 drawbacks. Bigger, stronger, and faster fighters have a natural advantage. Developing enough skill to overcome these advantages requires more time than can be dedicated to during institutional training. Well, that's a little bit of a weird thing to say because we already talked about, and they already talked about the fact that it's going to take time. So you can't use that excuse here a little bit. The Combatives program uses a more efficient approach. Fighting is taught in the context of strategy. The basic techniques serve as an educating metaphor to teach the basic fight strategy. Fighters learn to defeat an opponent by controlling the elements of the fight: range, angle, and level. The number one element of a fight is range. The Combatives program has 4 phases: projectile, striking, clinching, grappling.
Yep.
This chapter involves the soldiers, provides soldiers with these basic techniques at basic levels against an unarmed enemy. According to the circumstances surrounding conflict, fighters can use these techniques to disable opponent or force the opponent to submit.
You know, we talk about these 4 different, like they're in the projectiles. That's actually something that's good.
Yep.
Box room, we say, like you could throw a chair at someone.
Yeah,
and they'll put their hands up.
For sure.
So one thing I noticed, Muay Thai, which of course is great style. Kickboxing, they kick with their shins, which that's how I kick. But if you have a boot on, if you block shin to shin with a shin, you have a strong shin, you're fine. But a boot hitting your shin, it's an issue, bro. It's an issue. So Savat from France, they have these little like wrestling shoes with little metal tips though. It's like they're not pointy, but if you block like Muay Thai and they have those little shoes on with the metal tip,
ouch,
your shin it's a problem. So interesting, based on how you're dressed, right. A boot, if you block your shin, a boot kicking your shin is going to be, let's say, not a winning situation for you. So I'm just saying that essentially we're looking at now, because I'm sure they're not. They're thinking about having the uniform on, maybe body armor, the boots, maybe not a boot, maybe shoes, but different. It depends on how you're dressed. That's another thing too. However, I am on the side of Muay Thai. I'm on the side of, there's even this style in Burma where they use headbutts. It's crazy. It's pretty effective, by the way. Knowing how to throw a headbutt. Yeah. This kind of stuff. So I do think it's good to get the training with
nice
Muay Thai.
when you got a helmet on.
That's true.
Because then you can headbutt somebody and it's like no damage to you at all.
And they won't like the result.
Good times.
The recipient. So the way, but if we spar with boots and you kick in the knees with boots, it's going to hurt. You're going to get hurt real fast. You probably can't. It's going to be more dangerous. You spar Muay Thai, you can learn how, in case someone had a boot on, how to defend it. You get the training from Muay Thai with the tactics and, let's say, the open-minded way that maybe the arm's showing here. And you could adapt tactics for something like that. I think it's good. To add the projectiles is actually a good detail.
Well, and by projectiles, they also mean guns.
Oh, okay, yeah. That counts as a projectile
weapon.
You mean throwing the rifle at someone?
Yeah. Here's some like the basic concepts. Create space. When in combat, a soldier's primary goal should be to establish space between him and his attacker. A soldier must create enough space to transition to his primary weapon. So there you go. Maintain space. When in combat, soldiers may be unable to create enough space and transition to their primary weapon. If unable to do so, they may need to maintain space to transition to their secondary weapon, or close the distance, gain dominant body position, and finish the fight. So you want to create space, you want to maintain space, you might have to close the distance. When training soldiers, the primary goal should be instilling the courage to close the distance. The willingness to close with the enemy is a defining characteristic of a warrior, and the ability to do so against an aggressive opponent is the first step in using range to control a fight. This is something that I've talked about so much because you get that question all the time. Well, is jiu-jitsu really the best thing for self-defense? And you've heard me give this explanation 1,000 times. If I have space, I don't need any self-defense at all. I can get away from you and run away, and that's fine. It's when you grab me, that's when we have a problem. That's when I better know jiu-jitsu. That's when I better know how to grapple at least. So they say close the distance if you have to. If you can't create space or you can't maintain space, the next thing is you actually go on the attack and you close the distance, you get in close, gain dominant position, and then finish the fight. That's the protocol that they give. And then it gets into ground grappling. Ground grappling provides a sound base. And by the way, I'm not reading the whole book, obviously, but it's skipping ahead to the ground grappling, basic techniques. Stand in base with a primary weapon, fighting stance, opposing grip, thumbs grip, wrestler's grip, thumb and thumbless grip. Dominant body positions, rear mount, guard, side control. And then it starts giving basic positions, basic moves. And it goes through, basic finishing moves. Rear naked choke, cross collar choke from the mount and guard, bent arm bar from the mount and side control, straight arm bar from the mount, straight arm bar from the guard, guillotine choke. Blood chokes attack the blood supply to the brain. Air chokes attack the air supply. These chokes will take longer to cause unconsciousness. Gives joint locks. Tapping procedures. That's always good. I think I failed on that one when I hurt John Dudley, my buddy John Dudley.
He pushed him.
No, I didn't give him like a pre-brief.
Oh, okay.
You know, like, hey, dude, I just assumed that he would just tap. And it may or may not help because he was also kind of fired up, you know. John Dudley going berserker mode, level 9.
Oh, yeah.
And he's a great athlete in like 29 different categories. So when he was going ham, you know, but I didn't give him a good brief. So make sure if you're teaching someone, you tell them how to tap. Then it talks about sweeps and takedowns, and you know, one thing that's interesting is it starts giving like how to stand up in base, which we all know, but how do you stand up in base with a weapon? Like that's also something to think about. So they address a lot of these things that take a little bit of thought about how you're going to do it, because you don't want to put down your weapon so you can stand up. No, you want to be able to stand up while you're still holding your weapon. Fast forward a little bit again, you know, they talk about the fighting stance, and the fighting stance allows the soldier to assume an offensive posture conducive to attack while still being able to move and defend himself. The fighting stance is not only a platform for unarmed fighting, it can also be used for various weapons, from close-range contact weapons to projectile weapons. It's just detail, man. The fighter keeps their chin tucked. The fighter looks just beneath their eyebrows at the opponent. The fighter uses the lead shoulder to block the side of the face. Just squared away, you know, procedures. And even the whole book, the manual's got every conceivable thing. I mean, fast forward here, the mount. The mount allows a fighter to strike the opponent with punches while restricting the opponent's ability to deliver effective punches, return punches. The mount provides the leverage to attack the opponent's upper body with chokes and joint attacks. It goes through in detail all these different positions, and then, you know, the guard. And all this stuff is the same stuff we say. A fighter never wants to be under their opponent. The guard enables them to defend themselves and transition off their back into a more advantageous position. That's always, what are you going to do in a street fight? Pull guard? No one says that. Not one person has ever said that in a serious way. They might have joked about it, but no one says pull guard in a fight. Guard means you made a mistake. You messed up. That's why you're in guard. A fighter never wants to be under their opponent. Right, exactly. We all agree with that. The guard allows the bottom fighter to exercise a certain amount of control over the range by pushing out or pulling in his opponent with his hips and legs. Yes. So there you go. I mean, it's got tons of detail in this manual. And by the way, obviously this manual is unclassified. You can find it on the internet. But it's there. And if you want to look through it, go look through it. Learn some stuff. Learn about intermediate ground fighting techniques. So then it starts talking about the intermediate fight strategy involves adjusting the basic fight strategy taught in Chapter 3 to accommodate the unpredictable and varying nature of operations. Though learning basic combative techniques taught in Chapter 3, soldiers are instilled with basic fight strategy, the easiest way to impact a soldier's fighting ability. However, soldiers often find themselves in unpredictable situations that span the spectrum of operations. Therefore, soldiers must be prepared to adjust their fight strategy to fit the situation rather than making every situation fit the preferred strategy. So this is telling you to learn more and be adaptable and try different scenarios. And now you start talking about intermediate mount and side control techniques. Posting on the arms, posting on the side, larger opponent pins, wrists. It's just getting into more advanced stuff. How to pass the guard, attacks from the mount, attacks from the rear mount. It just continues to grow your skill level and eventually gets to grappling with strikes. Right? So now it says here, leaders should not make the mistake of practicing ground fighting techniques exclusively. Striking is an integral part of all types of fighting. Grappling with open and closed fist strikes force the fighters to ensure that they have positive control over their opponent's hands, which in turn can prevent the fighter's opponent from striking them in the face or using weapons. This is what's cool about Eddie Bravo's combat jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah.
Because there's some positions in jiu-jitsu, they work in jiu-jitsu, but if you did them in a fight, they're not going to work so good when you're getting punched in the head.
Especially the palm, not just a slap. Palm strikes like a punch. They're actually not as bone-breaking as a punch with knuckles, but They sting more. They hurt. The slaps hurt more than a punch.
Oh, the slaps definitely hurt more than a punch.
More. They don't damage your face as much. Like
yeah. Well,
like cut you. Break your cheekbone, things like that.
Well, it's
break
a different
your jaw.
kind of pain, but I mean, getting punched is
the palm strike can, but that's those slap, man. Those slapped on your chest, your back.
Oh yeah, the slaps to the ribs. The slaps to the ribs is like a torture.
Jocko and myself, we've done this many times. Like, remember, like if we're having like one of those days, you start pulling the shirt up, and bro, and then we got back and forth. Like we're still bros, but we're it was sort of like okay, slap. It's like
there's some definite
I think at some
tension.
point let's just calm down now. It's not funny.
There's
anymore.
an escalation that could occur at some times. And
exactly.
Unfortunately for me, I'm usually getting the raw end of that escalation.
It depends on the day, bro.
I have to hope for a peace out there. I remember one time when my son was probably like 12, maybe, and we were training, and I had a bad ankle injury. Speaking of Sarge shot a single on me, and like I did something or whatever, and it really hurt. It was one of the worst injuries I've had, and luckily it was Sarge, and he like, as it was probably gonna break, he like released and like whatever, moved his weight, but my ankle's really sprained, and so I'm rolling a couple days later, of course, because that's what we're doing. I had like one of that, the ankle braces that like lace up super tight, and they have like so I had one of those things on. So I'm rolling with my son, and he's like 12, and I like get side control or something, like half guard. I'm in half guard, and I like pull his shirt up a little bit, and I slap him right on the ribs, that painful spot.
Yeah.
And you can see he's like trying to move, and he can't really. And you can see it's like mad, right? And then whatever, transition to another position. He let him get up on top or whatever. He dives on a toe hold.
Oh, jeez.
He dives on a toe hold on my injured foot.
Yep.
And
taught him well.
Quite frankly, I probably should have tapped.
Yeah.
But obviously there was no way I was tapping to my own son.
No, not at all.
So I like escaped that. And this is I've told you this story before. So then I got across side, and I was like, and I did the paper cutter choke.
The key?
Yeah. And I said something like, "Hey, I'm injured, you idiot. Do you don't attack someone that's injured in their injured area and try and hurt them. Do you understand?"
Sir, yes, sir.
No. He didn't answer. And he's just looking at me. And I'm looking at him, and I go, "Do you understand?" And he's still pissed that I slapped him, right? So I start applying the choke. And I'm applying it hard. And I'm like, "Do you understand?" He's still just looking at me. I'm like, "Okay, I'm going to kill him." I'm like, "Okay, test of wills. He's going to have to die." That's it. So I start, you know how that paper cutter choke, you go down, then you start going out? I was down, and now I'm going out. And he's starting to turn red and purple, and finally he's like, "I understand." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "I understand." And I was like, "Okay." And then we just kept training, But
You had that coming to you, by the way.
Oh, I definitely had it coming to me. Although, I had it coming to me.
There's a debate of principle for sure, but you had it coming to you.
Wait, what? Why?
Doing the slap thing.
The slap thing. Even though the slap thing is still done in fun, right?
Yeah.
There's still a level of fun to it. Mm-hmm. There's no fun about trying to hurt someone that's injured.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the argument could be made, hey, look, I'm not your son. I'm not you, so I don't know. But maybe some of us didn't sign up for that fun that day. You see what I'm saying? That's good that it's fun for you. It really is. And congratulations.
You know what, though? You got to learn to control those emotions a little bit.
It's part of the process. It's part of the process.
Remember when you were back at City Boxing, you came back from wherever, you had like Tom, you had Grady Mack, you had all these guys in the mat, like 10 SEALs. You had one Marine who was the Force Recon guy. Yeah. And he got training, and I was slapping them, like, because they were down with it, because they were getting ready for like deployment. There was like, and I was talking smack to them. I'm like, request permission to go back to base. Mission not accomplished. I'm like, no, say it. Mission scrubbed. Request permission. Anyways, that was a game. But then again, there's just some fired up guys, and it was like the game. So the average person, I wouldn't, just cross the boundary. But the son, injured foot, understood.
So what's your assessment? Echo says I'm wrong.
It's kind of mutual, like you and I, we do it because we think it's funny. It's statistically funny. By the way, Jocko has his days. He makes me feel kind of ashamed sometimes. I understand. But it's a mutual thing. It's just different. I don't know why. I've known it for such a long time. We've always trained that way. For sure. Risk whatever. Yeah.
You know how? Okay, so I think this is true. So rattlesnakes, right? Mm-hmm. When they're like not full grown, when they bite, they say they're more kind of dangerous, right? Because they can't control their venom. So consider your 12-year-old kid, right? Yeah. You're like, okay, we're going street level or whatever, right? Because there's such thing as street rules. Yeah. So okay, we're going street rules, and that's what I would say the slap is. I mean, it's usually mutual and kind of understood in this way. I mean,
but someone might misunderstood it and like go hand back like really hard.
Exactly right. You don't just do it to anybody. So
I'm not rolling like a random person and
start the thing.
Has to be your friend or your enemy.
Exactly
friend or
right.
enemy.
And why don't we do it to anyone?
No, actually, you wouldn't even really rib slap your enemy. That's sort of like a dumb move, right? This is just like general friendly harassment.
Friendly harassment. Exactly right. So, but the reason you don't do it to like a stranger or something is like you don't know their reaction. Yeah, they're not under that element of control that your friends are. Yeah. Now, 12-year-old kid, who's to say where he's at mentally? See what I'm saying? Apparently
he's in vengeance mode.
He is like a little rattlesnake where he's like, okay, we're taking it to that level. We'll take it to that level. He don't know though. He didn't know what that means as far as the translation to what he can do, So he's just going for what's he going for? He's going for
jumping on that toe hold.
Yeah, all day.
And cranking.
Like I said,
cranking.
You had that coming to you, sir.
I don't know, man. I guess I see you're probably right, man. Yeah.
For
to me, that escalation, I guess you know what it is? Part of it is, for me, this was just like a way to make things more fun.
Yeah, I would actually agree with that.
Dean, like there's a certain level of, if Dean and I get in that zone, there's a certain level of, it's just a way to make it a little bit more fun, a little bit more consequences.
Yeah. The other day, training Jocko, like I was having a good day, and I'm like, Neon, we call it park bench. Remember park bench? It's like your shin is in the face and you can't move. And I'm like, all right, sir, straighten your legs. Like I'm trying to make him like lie against the wall straight, but he won't let me do it. Sure. So you're bending, just like your back's on the wall, you're on your side, and someone's shin is in your face and in your stomach. You're just like, fuck, man. It's called park bench. It's worse than Neon's stomach. It's a very demoralizing situation. Jocko did it back to me, of course, but yeah, it just makes it fun,
And it looks real bad too.
It looks pretty bad. Yeah. It's called park bench.
The humiliation level's high for that one.
Yeah.
Humiliation level's high.
When you're on the bottom, you're like, you feel like, I don't know why I'm here, bro. It's like I made several mistakes too. Yeah. For anyone not aware, a toe hold is basically grabbing like your toe and doing that, but for your toe, and it's actually your arm is more flexible than your ankle or your knee, so it can be a damaging move for anyone wondering what a toe hold is. Grabbing the toe, twisting the ankle, therefore the knee as well.
Yeah. For the record, I don't think necessarily that you were in the wrong. In fact, I think that your son was kind of technically in the wrong, but a little rattlesnake, you can't expect him to control, to know the line all definitely.
All right, who was tactical, who was strategical? Which one was tactical and strategical? Was that a strategic?
Strategic versus tactical?
Strategically, he's trying to make him into a tougher, better fighter, young man.
Yeah, so there
tactically,
you go.
was it a good?
Maybe. Tactically, maybe I shouldn't have let him out.
Teach him a long-lasting lesson.
But imagine the thing that I will say is like, it surprised me, right? It surprised me that he dove on the toe hold.
Yeah.
Because he had the weird combination of Dean Lister and Jeff Glover game. Because he would train with Dean Lister and Jeff Glover, so he had these weird heel hooks and like toe holds, and then he's like doing weird flexible things. So anyways, you gotta watch out for that stuff.
There is this
careful
element
that little
too,
rattlesnake.
where I kind of went over this with you real briefly one time in our whole life, where okay, so, and Dean, you could probably understand this too. Okay, let's say we roll, right? And in my mind, I believe like you're just so much better than me, and we're rolling. I'm just trying to, but at the end of the day, I know like you're just so much better than me. I'm 12 years old, or I'm me and you're you, or whatever, right? let's say, okay, you tap me out, Dean. You tap me out real quick, and then I'm like, oh man, cool. And then I like act like I'm gonna walk away, and then I jump on your back, and we start rolling again, right? Just kind of like half joking, but we still go and roll or whatever. You kind of concede a little bit, where it's like, okay, I see what's going on.
Yeah.
Like we're in a real training scenario, we wouldn't do that, right?
Yeah.
So Dean's gonna escalate.
Yeah, and he can escalate. He can figure it. But I'm saying,
what
like,
you did was an escalation, by the way.
yes, but it's half joking.
Yeah,
You see what I'm saying? It's like,
It's
I'm
half
like, hey,
joking,
what's
but-
that over there? And then you jump on
I do that all the
right?
time.
Yes, exactly.
What the time? Yeah.
Exactly
I don't know
right. So,
about this.
yeah.
I'm now see. There's a like a legitimate. Like you escalated. If you just jump to someone's back, even though you quote unquote are joking, you still got their back, and now you're trying to choke them.
What's funny is that's exactly what he said, too.
You know what I'm saying?
And he was like, you indicate, I forget your words, but you indicated that, like don't do that. Like, we're not trying, like,
Oh, you mean you
not,
did it to me for real?
Yeah, oh, yeah. Bro, a long time ago, I used to always do that kind of stuff to you.
And then I was like, hey, bro, what did I say? Did I say something to you? That's weird.
When we actually talked about it, you're like, I forget your exact words, but you weren't down for that.
It's
Like, not as
Look
down.
at that, dude. You
put
found me. But call me out.
Put it this way. I was surprised because it's not like you did anything. You know, it's not like you said, hey, don't do that or nothing, because you never said anything like that. But when you indicate, oh, yeah, you're not down for that, I understood. But you have to understand, I wouldn't do that if we had a real It was like, you're so much better than me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm going to jump on your back, and I still don't expect to get the better of you, even if I jump on your back, because you're so much. It's like that attitude, I think. So that could have been what your son had in his mind a little bit, too, though. See what I'm
Just
saying?
gonna go for it.
Yeah, like, I mean, obviously, Dean's not going to do that.
Dean will do that.
Wait, you go for your injured?
Hell yeah.
No, I wouldn't do that. No, I wouldn't do that.
There you go. There's some protocols. There's some etiquette,
Protocols,
right?
etiquette.
Sometimes it gets violated. Sometimes it's gray areas. I'm
Gray
probably wrong. Kid's 12. Should be nicer. Should have been a nicer dad. Sorry about that, kid. Yeah, we talked about grappling with strikes and all that, and it goes through some of those things, and then it gets into like advanced ground fighting techniques and north-south escapes and north-south, like all those things, chain attacks and how everything's connected. So leg attacks, Dean Lister. This section covers the advanced leg attacks. These techniques are taught as a way to change the fighter's position into a submission. Although the techniques are advanced, they still present the same amount of hazard as attacks learned at lower levels. So we got some ideas behind that as well. Reading an opponent's moves. I mean, this is just a very thorough book about combatives. And they just did a great job with it. And a lot of the theories that are in here just cover what we know, and they do it in a very professional way, in a very thorough way. And the last thing that it talks about is competition and the spirit of competition, the competition principles. You know, he says this is important. Two things. We'll finish with this. Combatives techniques are too dangerous for competition. Although many techniques are too dangerous for live competition, many benefits can be gained by competing, even when using a limited set of techniques. So there are some things that are too dangerous. And then it says, risks of competition outweigh the benefits. Many programs have failed because there was no motivation to train. Competitions are a useful tool to motivate both soldiers and unit leaders to emphasize combatives training. So, competition, very important. And there you have it. Like I said, great document. Outstanding job by the Army for moving in that direction.
That's incredible, yeah.
Yeah, and the Marine Corps has the McMap. We could go through that. The Marine Corps Martial Arts Program. I know Special Operations. Well, I know in the SEAL teams we moved in that direction as well. Around the same. Actually, I don't know time wise, but we all end up in the same place. And you know, the theory here is like you got to compete, you got to learn, you got to test, you got to get better. You know the saying, keep it real?
Yeah.
You ever say that, Echo? You ever say, hey, keep it real?
I say it from time to time, yes, sir.
Dean, you ever say keep it real?
High school, maybe.
I actually say keep it real. Like almost, and I kind of just throw it out there. Like if I'm, someone goes, hey, what's up? I'll be like, oh, you keeping it real? Like that? Yeah. Kind of just whatever.
Sure.
Kind of a throwaway comment.
Sure.
But I was thinking about it. It's actually a good attitude to have. With combatives, with fighting, with life. Keep it real. And that's what I think this does. Keep it real. Don't allow for the lies. The lies. You got to test. You got to learn. You got to adapt. You got to improve. Then you got to retest. And you can do that with fighting, and you can do that with everything in life. And that's how we become better fighters, and that's how we become better people.
Yeah.
So that's my recommendation, man.
It's true.
Train. Get out there. Anything else on combatives? Dean List.
Combatives. Well, we're looking at that fine balance of training, something you could train, you could replicate over and over without getting really injured or hurt.
Yep.
With also including some realism as far as getting ready for the actual threat that you will face. Such as, by the way, if you grapple on concrete all the time, it's going to suck. Mm-hmm. Now, you want to be aware, for instance, one time actually I fell for some reason on the concrete with my hand and broke my hand because we have mats. So I know how to fight if I don't have mats, but I made a mistake. I should open my hands at the right time. These are things I have to keep in mind. But then again, you want to train on mats, right? So why not always train on concrete? Well, because your knees will be jacked up, you'll hurt your head, you're going to break your elbow eventually. But you want to be aware of that. Mm-hmm. One thing, it was one of Sergeant Nosem and all the guys in Puerto Rico when I was there for a few weeks after the hurricanes working. We're just delivering water, that's all. One guy, and you probably know him, I don't know his name, but the story is the guy was an ex-Tier 1 whatever, I don't know, SEAL, I think SEAL, became a cop, but he was ranked top 10 in the world with shooting, but where your hands are here, and you reach, it's a quick draw. Mm-hmm. The guy's like ranked top 10 in the world is at the quick draw where your hands are above your head. So he got stuck up, like he was off duty, someone actually pulled a gun on him, he went like this. Because he's so trained to do that, he still won, killed. He drew on the draw. I mean, the guy was. I mean, that's how fast this guy. He's still. Yeah, it's considered like you're not supposed to draw if someone is already. It's considered dumb. Yeah. This guy's too fast. So he actually went from here and still eliminated. Survived. And the guy, I don't think he made it. The guy with the loaded gun trying to rob him. But the thing is, that training of him being so fast is good. But he didn't need to do this. He's trained so much to shoot from here. He still won. But that's a wasted movement. Think about that. So he still won. So that right there, that kind of training, I think, for quick draw is good. But then again, don't put your hands up here. Maybe that actually played into the whole, okay, he's complying. Yeah. Maybe it's actually good. But I'm saying it's a waste. They were saying how he still survived because he was trained. So that was just, and you know the guy, I don't know his name, but that was Sarge and all the guys in there. Like, it's a tight community. Yeah. So I think it's good to have that middle ground. We're looking for the middle ground. You want to replicate things. You want to be able to do it in a relatively safe environment, but always be prepared for what is going to happen potentially. That's why I like what the Army's doing. It's a guideline. There's some flexibility there, I think. Of course, leg locks. You know the story about the Russian. Actually, the first time I learned leg locks before chokeholds, and at this seminar, Nikolai Baturin, he's a Soviet champion of Sambo. Old Tatar was there. Other Russians were teaching, and they were saying like, the reason they prefer leg lock is because back in Russia, I'm with my wife, she's very attractive, and I go to a bar, a strange man grabs her inappropriately. I'm very upset, I break his arm. Now he goes, the vehicle gets Kalashnikov, he comes back and dead. I'm like, bro, I'm 18 years old, man. He's like, but imagine the scenario, the guy grabs my girl very inappropriately, I break his leg, takes a long time to go to vehicle, get Kalashnikov. There's always some kind of use for it. I'm like, it makes sense, It makes good sense. I'm already with wife at home, sleeping in bed. I was actually supposed to leg locks before chokes, believe it or not. So yeah, it's all good to have the open mind.
Well, but chokes are part of Sambo as well.
Combat Sambo. In USA, illegal because this is back in Steven Seagal days. They thought chokehold, you die, So in sports Sambo, well, I think combat Sambo is not illegal, but back then it was. You can do straight arm lock. You can do Kimura in Sambo.
Just straight arm lock and straight knee lock.
If you have an arm lock and I stand on my feet, it's illegal submission now. Restarting your feet. So that's an escape from a submission. Just stand on your feet. If I stand, I have nothing but my feet are the only thing touching the ground. Stop. All submissions are illegal. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's just and at some point they probably had some reason for that.
Yeah,
like if I pick you up and now I could drop you on your head.
Yeah.
So therefore it's not going to work anymore. When we actually know you let that evolve a little bit further, and now when you start to pick me up, I'm going to grab your ankle and I'll hold you and keep you down. And so you need to let things evolve naturally.
Yeah.
Rules don't help that usually.
I agree. Yeah, well, I won 2-time national champion of Sambo. I was like 19. And the third time I was going to get third. I was going to be a 3-time, but then I got in the finals. And the guy, he went, Mate! But he stood up, so it means he gave up. He's a judo guy.
Oh,
he got his arm.
Mate!
It's an illegal submission. And my feet were crossed around the neck. They go, it was almost choke. It was -1. So he won -1 to 0. So I lost. So I took second place one year, unfortunately. But that's okay.
So you're a two-time champ and then 1-time.
Yeah, Sambo's a tough sport. It's good. I like Sambo.
Sambo's awesome.
It's a Russian martial arts. Very, very good sport.
And the combat Sambo's really
it's
awesome
MMA
too.
with the jacket.
Yeah.
Straight up MMA with the jacket. Yeah.
I mean, look at Fedor. Fedor was a Sambo champion.
Yeah, combat Sambo. So was Khabib, yeah, tough. Yeah.
Would you say Khabib's more of a wrestler?
Yeah, but he's done judo Sambo, but yeah, his style is very suited for no-gi, yeah.
Just smashing people.
Yeah,
smash,
yeah. He's a tough guy.
Oh, right on. Awesome. All right, well, appreciate everyone for listening. Thank
Jocko,
you.
Can I mention something real fast?
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyone looking to August 7, 8, 9, Costa Rica, we're running a jiu-jitsu camp. And if anyone's on Instagram interested in training, it's for all skill levels. Ron from Hero BJJ Retreats is a good guy to contact if anyone's interested in high-level jiu-jitsu for 3 or 4 days in beautiful Costa Rica, working your Spanish, your tan, and your leg locks. Oh, yeah. Hit it up.
Right on.
Hero camps in Costa Rica. Hopefully I'll see y'all there.
And you can post it on your Instagram as well.
Yeah.
So that way people, when they hear this, they can follow the link or whatever.
Absolutely.
And go there and check that out. I mean, that sounds like a rough deal, going to Costa Rica and doing jiu-jitsu. How long is it?
It's 4 days. 4 days, yeah.
That sounds like a good time.
I know.
When is it?
August 7, 8, 9. So everyone rides the 6th, 7, 8, 9, and the 10th is like a free day. So it's like 4 days on there. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, check that out if you want to go learn some jiu-jitsu from the Boogeyman.
The Boogeyman.
Yeah, the Boogeyman. Check it out. Thanks for supporting the podcast. Go to JockoFuel.com if you want to get some of these drinks, by the way, which are freaking good to go. They taste delicious. Used to be, couldn't say that.
Well, some of us could.
Well, you'd be like, oh, they taste good. Now, different ball game.
Yeah, you're reformulated to perfection, I think.
Yeah, so get yourself some of that. That's, the energy drink thing. The reason we made them, look, I was on deployment. We used to drink other brands of energy drinks that were filled with sugar.
You drink too many of those things?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you get like,
for sure. And you feel awful.
It's even worse, not worse than drinking, but I mean,
it's not,
bad.
It's horrible for you.
Yeah, it's bad.
And that's what happened on deployment. It would be like that. And that's why when at Jocko Fuel, it was like, hey, Brian asked me, he's like, do you want to do an energy drink? And I was like, I would only want to do that if it was possible to make them like actually good for you.
Yeah.
And then he was like, let me come up with a formula.
Just start with your cranberry white tea. Is that how it started?
Yeah, that's how it started.
Jocko with his white cranberry tea.
Pomegranate white tea. What did you say, chai? Is that what we're saying?
I said cherry, white cherry.
He said cranberry. I don't know.
Pomegranate. I was way off.
Well, pomegranate's not as obvious.
Okay,
so I get
you.
it. I got you.
Yeah, but there is a benefit. There's times when you need energy.
Yeah.
So you might as well get it. And you might as well not have a bunch of sugar in there and have an overload of caffeine that makes you jittery and crazy. Just get something that's smooth, good, clean energy, good for you. Yeah. That's Jocko Discipline Go, JockoFuel.com. You can get it at Wawa. You can get it at Vitamin Shop. You can get it at HEB down in Texas. A bunch of we're spreading. I need to get a list. Remind me. I got to get a list of all the places you can get Jocko Fuel. So there you go. Origin USA.
You have demand for it in Brazil now.
I know.
And Brazil.
We got it down in Australia too.
Oh yeah.
We have a distributor down there in Australia, so that's going forward. So yeah, we're spreading because it's good. Yeah. The Mulk is good. The Joint Warfare is good. The Super Krill is good. So it's all good, and that's what people kind of know now. Like we're making the good stuff. We're making the goods. Get yourself some of that. OriginUSA.com, making gis, jiu-jitsu gis. You want to train that jiu-jitsu gi.
Yeah.
You want to train that jiu-jitsu gi because it's going to make all your game better. Gi, no gi. If you do gi, you're going to get better. I think your defense gets better when you wear...
Because you're stuck more.
Because you're stuck more.
Yeah.
Your offense gets better when you don't have a gi on because you have to do it really tight.
You have to advance. You have to keep advancing more with no gi because people slip out easier. Yeah.
Yep. You should get a gi that's made in America, not by slave labor, but made by hardworking Americans. That's my recommendation. OriginUSA.com. We got some hunt gear on the way. Actually, what's today? I should be hitting I should be getting the first like production stuff coming soon.
Jocko, can you make a gi that's just like sandpaper? Like a sandpaper gi? I want to get really good. Really good at escaping submissions.
Actually, no.
Because you're not slipping out of that.
The Origin gis are so comfortable.
Yeah.
They're so good. They're a different thing. Yeah.
Spoiled.
We are spoiled now.
Yeah, they are spoiled.
My first jiu-jitsu gis were like
bloody.
Nasty.
Bloody.
Just awful to wear.
Yeah.
So don't do that. Go to OriginUSA.com. Get yourself some jeans, boots, hunt gear, jiu-jitsu gear. We got it. We got you covered. Made in America. All of it.
It's true. Good stuff.
To the bone.
Speaking of apparel, Jocko has a store as well. It's called Jocko's Store. Dean Lister has his own shirt.
Yeah, we're going to have that soon.
Is it out? Is it live?
It's been live. Actually, we haven't really...
Is this the one that says foot yet?
Foot.
Okay, so it's a takeoff on the good shirt.
I showed up at you were like, what the...
It started off with the good shirt, which had my head on it. And then the Echo shirt, which said dang, which had your head on it, which I designed. And then who designed your shirt? Dean.
Well, I came up with I did it like in 20 minutes just as a joke. I wore it to the pocket. And he was like, oh, everyone liked it.
It looked good. Yeah, it's like, hey, man.
So if you don't know, Dean Lister is notorious and famous for changing the realm of jiu-jitsu by attacking the feet and the legs and the knees. And so he made a shirt with his head on it. We made a shirt with his head on it. And instead of saying good, it says foot.
Yep. Yeah. Same style. It actually came out really, really good.
Jack.
Yeah. Also, some new stuff on there. Discipline equals freedom. Standard issue. Many colorways.
Look at you with the big words. I feel like I'm talking to Pete Roberts over here talking about colorways and whatnot.
Hell yeah. Hey, you taught me it. So hey,
did I actually teach you that? You knew that.
It sounded familiar, but you're the one who said colorways and explained it. I was like, okay. I might have heard it before,
colorways.
But I've never used it till just now.
That's really dipping your toes into the fashion industry when you start saying colorways.
It's true.
But colorways, I think, can be used to describe like cars or like anything that could be made in multiple colors. I believe in the industry they use the term colorways, like sneakers. Yeah. I think that's how I know it. From sneakers. Someone's talking to a sneaker professional who was like, yeah, we got to offer these different colorways. And I said, okay.
Little combos of colors.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, there you go. We got colorways. But anyway, yes, we call it the standard issue Discipline Equals Freedom shirt. It's good. It's new. I didn't blow it up yet, but,
All right, so you can check that out.
Also, we got the Shirt Locker, which is a subscription situation. If you didn't know, new designs every month. You get a new shirt, a new design, a little bit more creative. That's what I'm not at right now. It can be
you haven't gotten very creative on your creative description. No, creative yet. So
you know why? Because all the creativity goes into the designs. You see what I'm saying? Not the descriptions of the designs. That'd be like a meta description. See what I'm saying? Either way, they're good. Great feedback on that one. So check that out at jockostore.com.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Subscribe to the podcast. Go to JockoUnderground.com. Hear some underground podcasts. Check out YouTube, where I'm the assistant director. One of the best, apparently, one of the best out there. The best assistant director. Just keeping Echo Charles tight on stuff. Psychological Warfare. FlipsideCanvas.com. Dakota Meyer making cool stuff to hang on your walls. I've written a bunch of books. Read them if you want. Echelon Front. EchelonFront.com. Leadership consultancy. That's what we do. We solve problems through leadership. So if you want help inside your organization, go to echelonfront.com for details. Next up is Atlanta, October 12th through the 14th. The muster. It's going to sell out. They all do. So we'll see you there. Also, we have an online training academy. Just like jiu-jitsu, you're not going to get good at fighting in one day or 1 week. You got to do it all the time. That's why we made the Academy, Extreme Ownership Academy, extremeownership.com. Come and learn how to lead and live. That's what it's going to do for you. And if you want to help out service members, active and retired, their families, Gold Star families, check out Mark Lee's mom, Mama Lee. She's got a charity organization. It does outstanding work supporting
Mama Lee,
our warriors. Yep. And if you want to help her out or you want to get involved, go to americasmightywarriors.org. Also check out Micah Fink. He's got Heroes deanandhorses.org. Just got out of the field, I think, today.
Yeah.
Bunch of dudes been out in the field for 41 days, riding horses, sitting in cold water, eating raw meat. Just getting back to it. And so check that one out. And if you want to check out Dean, Dean's on the gram, on the Instagram.
Yes.
He's at Dean Lister BJJ.
That's right.
I cannot be held accountable for some of the things that he posts.
Some drama.
You go to some dark places in weird times. So if you wake up in the morning and there's posts from Dean Lister at 3 o'clock in the morning, hey, what's that? Be advised. Right? Be advised.
Yeah.
It's random.
You might be offended. You might be disgusted.
Very possible, yeah.
Man, he sent me one the other day. Was that a post from Instagram? The guy getting cut in the neck?
Oh, it was sent to me.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a horrible scene of a guy. There's like it looks like your typical kind of couple drunk dude, like 3-4 drunk guys, gonna fight another 3 or 4 drunk guys, and they're kind of talking smack to each other, and then one of the guys like pulls out a knife in kind of that kind of like way, like, oh, I've got a knife out, you better back off, and the other guy's sort of like, well, you wouldn't do anything anyways, and it just sort of seems like this kind of innocent,
it's crazy,
kind of, I mean, as innocent as it could be pulling out a knife. It was that innocent.
That's all it is.
I'm saying it didn't look like the intent was we're about to murder somebody.
Yeah.
And the one dude that doesn't have a knife comes kind of like walking over like, oh, what are you going to do? Cut me? Like with that kind of look on his face, but not expecting anything to happen. And in a millisecond, the dude like swings at him with the knife and cuts his throat. And the dude is dead in 10 seconds.
He passes out.
He passes out in 5 seconds and he's probably dead So another reason, don't get in street fights.
No.
Don't get in street fights. They're stupid. You get stabbed in the neck, you could break your hand. Whatever. Anything in between. So don't do that. But if you want to check out Dean Lister on Instagram, there he is, Dean Lister BJJ. On the Twitter, on the gram, on Facebook, I'm on there as well. Echo's on there. Echo's at Echo Charles. I'm at Jocko Willink. Watch out for the algorithm, by the way. Because that thing's going to grab you. It's going to waste an hour of your day. You're going to take an hour from you. Imagine that. A monster that came in every day and took an hour from you or 2 hours from you. You can't get it back. Nope. That's the algorithm monster. It's going to get you. So that's it. Thanks to all the soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines who continue to find ways to fight better in every respect. Thanks again to Matt Larson for driving this initiative in the Army. I know there's, like I said, I'm sure there's a bunch of other people that helped out. I know that he was leading the charge. So salute to him and the rest of the military personnel that are out there putting these skills to the test on the battlefields. Thanks for what you do. Also, thanks to police and law enforcement. Do what you can to get out there and train. You need it. We need it. Also, firefighters, paramedics, EMTs, dispatchers, correctional officers, Border Patrol, Secret Service, all the first responders, thank you for keeping us safe here in our own country. And to everyone out there, go train. Train whatever you can. Train wrestling, train boxing, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, train judo and sambo, and train with guns and knives and bow and arrow. And test and learn and adjust and get better, and it will make you better in every aspect of life. Just go train. And until next time, this is Dean and Echo and Jocko. Out.